Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone? I hope you're all doing very, very well. We're into the next week, so another few days until the weekend, and we can relax again. But it's been pretty good for me so far. You know, it's been a nice, easy week, I have to say. Um, I posted a big sandwich that I got earlier yesterday. It was so good. Oh my god. There's a particular place that does some just really nice sandwiches that do those sandwiches, and it's like freshly baked bread, big thick slices of bread with lovely crust and real proper butter and fresh produce and ham and cheese and other stuff if you want to get it. It's so good. Oh, I savaged it. I savaged it. Maybe a little too much because I was kind of very full then, even by the time dinner came around. So I had a small dinner. I had some chicken pasta bake, which is kind of what we call, I guess, just it's just a word we use for just pasta, like pasta sauce, grated cheese, and chicken. Very nice, very nice. Actually, hang on. I need to shill myself everywhere on all of the channels that I can, because that's something that I do. I still get I still get a little self-conscious about that. I get self-conscious not in streams, or sorry, not in like Discord channels where there's loads of people doing it, but in Discord channels where I'm like one of the few VTubers. And I'm the only one who really or one of the only ones who really uses the promo channel, self promo. And it's like I go into some of those discords and I click on the channel and it's just me for like 3 months straight, and then you might have some random person who like shills their stream, and then it's just me again for another like 2 months. Ah, God, I feel so silly. I remember I remember one of my friends, Void Kindled. He kind of teased me a little bit about it. I was like, I just want to use the channel. That's it. That's it. That's all I want to do. I just want to use the channel for its purpose. But yeah, did anything really interesting happen to me today? I can't really say interesting. I mostly just lazed about, I suppose. I kind of just chilled out. I was meant to be. Excuse me. Clearly not enough, or maybe too much. Maybe I'm still tired. But I did. I was meant to be working today, but I'm gonna be honest. For at least an hour after I got up to work, I went right back to sleep. I opened up. I did whatever I needed to do. Oh, I forgot to mute something. I am a professional streamer, guys. Trust me. Professional streamer. How do people remember to do like all the things they need to do on a stream? Like I'm imagining like what like some of those big streamers have to do, where it's like, they get everything ready and they have like their sponsorships. Maybe they have to do some like reads, some ad reads. It's like, oh my god, how could you keep all that in your mind? Especially when I'm doing streams, I tend to find what happens is I can get very easily distracted, really easily distracted. Someone could say something, and I mean to say something like about whatever they're saying, or like respond to something, or especially actually, I was only talking about this with a friend of mine, another streamer friend. Remembering to shout out people is so difficult sometimes, because they'll all come in, you'll be like, oh, hello, thank you for the raid, and all that stuff, and you're going through all that kind of routine. You're introducing yourself, you're talking about what you're doing, you're asking the streamer how they're getting on, and then, well, I guess that's why people set up automatic shoutouts, huh? But sometimes, sometimes if multiple people raid you, like I had a double raid and I couldn't shout out a person straight away, I had to wait like a little bit. I remember I went to shout out the second person, and it was like, you must wait 1 second. Twitch was really angry about that. They didn't want me shouting out until I got the exact amount of time. Exactly 1 second later, I was allowed to shout them out. But it can just, like, I can get distracted very easily, because especially if there's people coming into the chat and they're chatting away and you're like talking with them, it's so easy to go, oh my god, I completely forgot to do this. I completely forgot to do like one of the things that's kind of like, you know, Twitch etiquette, I suppose. Excuse me. But yeah, today we're going to be getting back into our reading of Scipio Africanus. When last we left off, Scipio had effectively conquered Spain. He had driven the Carthaginians out of Spain, other than like a few islands or some little outskirt areas. He had effectively gained the support that he needed from all of the tribes that lived around there, crushed some of those that had betrayed him, gaining vengeance upon his the death of his uncle and father, and really secured the Roman position in an area where cutting off Hannibal from his supply lines. So all in all, the couple of years that he spent there was incredibly successful, never losing a battle, always taking what he needed, and regularly entrusting his men with important actions. Now, when we left off, he was in Sicily, and he was tasked, well, he sort of forced the Roman Senate's hand to do this, but they elected him and gave him authority to invade into Africa. Now remember, they've won all these great battles, they're all very happy, but Hannibal Barca is still raiding in Italian soil. He is up and down taking land, but he's not having the best of times, because that was one of Hannibal's weaknesses. He couldn't take cities. If he could have taken, say, the port towns on the southern end of Italy, if he could have taken Syracuse or Sicily, all of Sicily, or if he would have just used, as Scipio and of course Philip II often used, that being the lethal pursuit, he could have killed Scipio and been done with the whole thing beforehand, but he would have probably chased them all the way to Rome and made the Romans surrender. And who knows, we could have all been speaking about the great Carthaginian Empire, but the Carthaginians didn't do that. Hannibal didn't do that. He wasn't able to take the cities. And ultimately what we're reading is the story of the man who beat Hannibal and laid the foundations, really, for the great Roman Empire to expand across the world. Because once they defeated Carthage, they're effectively taking out, and I mean, there was the Third Punic War, but that was more just Rome bullying them, if anything. Like, yeah, sure, I'm sure they were doing some wacky intentions of raiding, but you know, it was just Rome bullying them. But I think we should get into the reading today. Let me get a little bit closer. There we go. Perfect. So, beforehand though, before we get into Scipio preparing, and another thing to note actually that was in our prior reading, is Scipio isn't really getting a whole lot of support from the Roman Senate and from the political machine. They're feeling a little bit, what's the word? Jealous and intimidated by this incredibly capable, incredibly charismatic, and strategical genius that is Scipio Africanus. And he's had to enlist the help of volunteers and build his own navy. So he is in a little bit of a precarious situation. I believe last time he only had about 7,000 men to invade all of Africa with, heavily relying upon the Numidians, the Numidian cavalry, to support him. Let's see just how he does it. But I believe beforehand, before the invasion, he's going to have to deal with a couple of other things. And once again, the political machine of Rome will try and prevent him from taking such a daring move into Africa. Chapter 8. Oh, hang on. There we go. Chapter 8. A political... Excuse me a moment. Hello, Wang Boyu. Welcome in. I hope you're having a very nice day or night, whatever it is for you. Thank you so much for the follow. We're just beginning our reading now, actually. So I hope you do enjoy. I want my yeah, that should be fine, actually. The interval between the return of Laelius and the embarkation for Africa is occupied, apart from material preparation, by two episodes of significance. The first is Scipio's apparent sideshow at Locri. Hello, Clever. Welcome in. Hi. How you doing? Always nice to see Mr. Stone, Mr. Clever Stone. The second, the political imbroglio, which for a time threatened his ruin and that of his plans. Both deserve study for the light they shed on his character as a commander and as a man. Locri lay on the underpart of the toe of Italy, near modern Geras, and was in Hannibal's possession. After his brother Hasdrubal's defeat at the Materus, Hannibal had fallen back on Bruttium, the southernmost province of Italy, and here he held at bay the consular armies, who dared not advance to seek out the scared but indomitable lion in his mountain fastnesses. Some Locrians had gone outside the walls. Oh, so I suppose he did. I always heard that he had never been able to take the cities, but I suppose in areas where he completely dominated, he did. I wonder why the actually, I believe a big part. I'm remembering actually. He didn't get a whole lot of support from the African side, I believe, like the Carthaginian political machine as well. He was similarly dealing with issues as his rival Scipio. Some Locrians who had gone outside the walls were captured by a Roman raiding party and taken to Rhegium, the port adjacent to Sicily, where they were recognized by the pro-Roman Locrian nobles, who had found sanctuary there. When their town fell into Carthaginian hands, certain of the prisoners who were skilled artisans and who had been in the employment and trust of the Carthaginians, suggested that, if ransomed, they would be willing to betray the citadel at Locri. The nobles, eager to regain their town, at once ransomed the artisans, and after concerting a plan and signals, sent them back to Locri. Then, going to Scipio at Syracuse, they told him of the scheme. He saw the opportunity, and dispatched on the venture a detachment of 3,000 men under 2 military tribunes. Exchanging signals with the conspirators inside, ladders were let down about midnight, and the attackers swarmed at the walls. Surprise magnified their strength, and the Carthaginians in confusion fled from the citadel to a second citadel on the farther side of town. Wow, you must be a really cool city to have 2 citadels. How come Locri gets to have 2 citadels, Mom? For several days, encounters occurred between the two parties without decisive result. Alive to the danger to his garrison and to the threatened loss of an important point, Hannibal moved to the rescue, sending a messenger ahead with orders to take the garrison to make a sortie at daybreak, as a cloak to what he hoped would be his surprise assault. He had not, however, brought scaling ladders with him, and so was forced to postpone his attack on the day, while he was preparing these and other materials for storming the walls. Scipio, who was at Massena, received word of Hannibal's move and planned a counter-surprise. Leaving his brother in command at Massena, he embarked a force and, setting sail on the next tide, arrived in the harbour of Locri shortly before nightfall. The troops were hidden in the town during the night, a concealment made possible by the townspeople's favouring, though not openly taking the side, of the Romans. Next morning Hannibal launched his assault in conjunction with the sortie from the Carthaginian citadel. As the scaling ladders were being brought forward, Scipio sallied out from one of the town gates and attacked the Carthaginians in the flank and rear. The shock of the surprise dislocated and disorganized the Carthaginians, and its plan upset, Hannibal fell back on his own camp. Realizing that the Romans, because of their grip on the town, were masters of the situation, he withdrew during the night, sending word to his garrison at the citadel to make their way out as best they could and rejoin him. For Scipio, this sideshow was a very real asset. Apart from the personal prestige he gained from his success in this first encounter against the dreaded Hannibal, souring a trick even off the master of ruses, he had helped the Roman campaign in Italy by curtailing Hannibal's remaining foothold in that country, and without any diminution of his own force. But beyond these personal and indirect gains, his success had an important bearing on his own future plans of operations. For he had bloodied his troops against Hannibal, and by this successful enterprise given them a moral tonic, which would be of immense value in the crucial days to come. It is unfortunate that for this episode, as for Laelius's reconnaissance in Africa, we have no Polybius to reveal to us the motives and calculations which inspired Scipio's moves. The loss of Polybius's books on this period must be replaced by deduction from the facts, and from the knowledge already gained of Scipio's mind. To those who have followed his constant and far-sighted exploitation of the moral element during his Spanish campaigns, there can be little doubt that he seized on the Locri expedition as a heaven-sent chance not only to test and sharpen his weapon for the day of trial, but to dispel in his troops the impression of Hannibalic invincibility. And that's actually something that I think you see with the Spartans as well. They kind of had this impression on land during the first few years of the Peloponnesian Wars against Athens, that they were effectively unbeatable on land. They were invincible. They were the land army of Greece that would defeat any group that could come against them. And once they were defeated at some point, effectively on the battlefield, that sort of reputation, not shattered, they certainly still owed their reputation to being capable warriors, but it made their enemies a lot more comfortable fighting them. They weren't going to be facing down the dangerous, unbeatable Spartans. And so this is another similar situation where Hannibal, as I think as Little Heart rightfully suggests, Hannibal used this as a chance to get one over on Hannibal and show that he isn't some invincible, insurmountable opponent, despite the fact that the Romans certainly would have looked at him as one, having slaughtered them, many tens of thousands of them, really. And back to the book. The second episode arose out of the subsequent administration of recaptured Locri. When Scipio had sent the original force to seize the town, he had instructed Quintus Plemnius, the propraetor at Rhegium, to assist the tribunes, and when the place was captured, Plemnius, by virtue of his seniority, assumed the command until Scipio arrived. After the repulse of Hannibal's relieving force, Scipio returned to Sicily, and Plemnius was naturally left in chief command of the town and its defence, though the detachment from Sicily remained under the direct command of the tribunes. How Plemnius abused his trust is one of the most sordid pages in Roman history. I have never heard of this. This is going to be interesting. The wretched inhabitants suffered worse from his tyranny and lust than ever they had from the Carthaginians, an ill requital of their aid to the Romans in regaining the town. The example of their leader infected the troops, and their greed for loot not only harassed the townspeople, but inevitably led to disorder amongst themselves. It would seem that the tribunes strove to check this growing license and to uphold the true standards of military discipline. One of Plemnius's men, running away with a silver cup that he had stolen from a house and pursued by its owners, met the tribunes in his flight. They stopped him and had the cup taken away, whereat his comrades showered abuse on the tribunes, and a disturbance soon ended in a free fight between the soldiers of the tribunes and those of Plemnius. The latter were worsted, and invoked the aid of their commander, inciting him by tales of the reproaches cast upon his behavior and control. Plemnius thereupon ordered the tribunes to be brought before him, stripped and beaten. During the short delay while the rods were being brought and themselves stripped, the tribunes called upon their men for aid. The latter, hastily gathering out from all quarters, were so inflamed at the sight that, breaking loose from the habits of discipline, they vented their rage on Plemnius, cutting him from the party. They mutilated his nose and ears, and left him almost lifeless. When word of the disturbance reached Scipio, he sailed immediately for Locri and held a court of inquiry. Of the evidence and of the reasons for his judgment, we know nothing. All that is handed down is the fact that he acquitted Plemnius, restored him to command, and pronouncing the tribunes guilty, ordered them to be thrown into chains and sent back to Rome for the Senate to deal with. He then returned to Sicily. The verdict appears somewhat astonishing, the one serious blemish, in fact, on Scipio's judgment. The motives which inspired it are difficult to surmise. Perhaps it was partly pity for the mutilated Plemnius, combined with anger that his own men should have shown such gross insubordination and committed such an atrocity. It is natural instinct with the best type of commander to be more severe on the misconduct of his own direct subordinates than on those who are only attached to him, and in case of dispute between the two, such a man may err because of his very scrupulousness to hold the balance fairly, and to avoid partiality towards his own. It was said of one of the finest British commanders in the war of 1914 to 1918, World War I, at this point, but poor B.H. Little Heart didn't know that was World War I. At that point, it was the Great War, the war to end all wars. That if he had a personal dislike or distrust of a subordinate, he invariably gave the latter more rope than the others, knowing that if his distrust was justified, the man would assuredly use this rope to hang himself. Similar may have been the motives underlying Scipio's outwardly inexplicable verdict. In criticizing it, the historian must consider not only the gaps in our knowledge of the case, but view in the incident in the general light of all Scipio's recorded acts as a commander. The whole weight of evidence, as we have seen, goes to show that two qualities which especially distinguished Scipio were the acuteness of his understanding of men and his humanity to the conquered. Trust in a Plemnius or condemnation of brutality were the last things to be expected of him. So, lacking evidence as to the facts of which his decisions was based, it would be rash to pass adverse judgment on his actions. We need to remember also that Locri was in Italy, and therefore outside of his province, and a close attention to its administration could only be at the expense of his primary object, preparation for the expedition to Africa. The importance of the Locri incident is not as a light of Scipio's character, but as a political rock on which his military plans nearly foundered. How this came about can be briefly told. After Scipio's departure, Plemnius, who thought that the injury he had sustained had been treated too lightly by Scipio, disobeyed the latter's instructions. Really, Plemnius? He had the tribunes dragged before him and tortured to death, refusing even to allow their mangled bodies to be buried. His injuries still rankling, he then sought to avenge himself by multiplying the burdens put on the Locrians. In despair, they sent a deputation to the Roman Senate. Their envoys arrived soon after their consular elections, which had marked the end of Scipio's terms of office. though he was continued in command of the troops in Sicily. Their tale of misery raised a storm of popular indignation at Rome, and Scipio's senatorial opponents were not slow to divert this on the head of the man nominally responsible. It is no surprise to find that Fabius initiated this by asking if they had carried out their complaints to Scipio. The envoys replied, according to Livy, that, quote, deputies were sent to him, but he was occupied with the preparation for the war, and had either already crossed over into Africa, or was on the point of doing so. They added that his previous decision between Flaminius and the tribunes had given them the impression that the former was in favor with Scipio. Fabius had got the answer he wanted, and after the envoys had withdrawn, hastened to condemn Scipio unheard, declaring, quote, that he was born for the corruption of military discipline. In Spain he had almost lost more men in consequence of the mutiny than in the war. That after the manner of foreigners and kings, he indulged in the licentiousness of the soldiers, and then punished them with cruelty. This envenomed speech Fabius followed up with, quote, a resolution equally harsh. It was, quote, that Flaminius should be conveyed to Rome in chains, and in chains plead his cause, that, if the complaints of the Locrians were founded in truth, he should be put to death in prison, and his effects confiscated. That Publius Scipio should be recalled for having quitted his province without the permission of the Senate. A hot debate followed, in which, quote, besides the atrocious conduct of Flaminius, much was said about the dress of the general himself, as being not only un-Roman, but even unsoldierly. His critics complained that he, quote, walked about the gymnasium in a cloak and slippers, and that he gave his whole time to light books and to the palestra. I don't know what the palestra is. Let me quickly look what that might be. Palestra. What is the palestra? So the palestra was any site of an ancient Greek wrestling school. Little space such as boxing and wrestling took here. Oh, okay, so they're just mentioning kind of I guess they're just mentioning the gymnasium twice. I don't know. Excuse me. That his whole staff were enjoying the delights which Syracuse afforded, with the same indolence and effeminacy. That Carthage and Hannibal had dropped out of his memory. Somewhat inconsistent on the part of the people who were proposing to recall him because he had been fighting with Hannibal. How petty, how true to human nature. The real grievance of his crusted seniors was not his leniency with Flaminius, but his Greek refinement and studies. But wiser counsels prevailed. Metellus pointed out how inconsistent it would be for the state now to recall, condemned in his absence and without a hearing, the very man whom they had commissioned to finish the war, and to do so in the face of the Locrians' evidence that none of their tribulations occurred while Scipio was there. On the notion of Metellus, a commission of inquiry was appointed to visit Scipio in Sicily, or even in Africa, had he departed thither, with power to deprive him of his command if they found that the acts of Locri had been committed at his command, or with his concurrence. This commission was also to investigate the charges brought against his military regime, whether his own alleged indulgency, or the relaxation of discipline among the troops. These charges were brought about by Cato, who, besides being an adherent of Fabius, conceived it his special mission in life to oppose the new Hellenic culture and to affect the cheese-pairing economies. What? Cheese-pairing? That must be... What does that mean? What does cheese-pairing mean? Cheese-pairing meaning... Extremely careful or mean with money. Meanness. Stingy. I've never heard that before. That's a brand new one to me. Cheese pairing. But yes, around this time, the Greek states were causing a bit of hassle, especially Philip IV in Macedon. Must be a French saying. Maybe so. And only in a few decades, I believe, you would see the Roman Senate, or well, you'd see Rome and Philip IV battle it out for supremacy over Greece. Of course, the Romans were probably a little bit against these strange Greek people, although many of them believed to be descendant of them. Well, Syracuse was Syracuse Greek, or was it Carthaginian? Not Carthaginian, but Phoenician, I should say. Rip Archimedes. Oh no, poor Archimedes. Oh no. The commission was first sent to Locri. Oh wait, hang on, sorry. It is and hello, son. Hello. I forgot to say hello. Thank you for joining. It is related that to save money he sold his slaves as soon as they were too old for work, that he esteemed his wife no more than his slaves, and he left behind in Spain his faithful charger, rather than incur the charge of transporting it to Italy. As quaestor under Scipio in Sicily, he reproached his general with his liberality to the troops, until Scipio dispensed with his services, whereupon Cato returned disgruntled to Italy to join Fabius in an anti-waste campaign in the Senate. Cato was the first green energy pusher. We need 100% renewable military campaigns. Cato. The commission was first sent to Locri. Flaminius had already been thrown into prison at Rhegium, according to some accounts by Scipio, who had sent a legatus with a guard to seize him and his principal adjucts. At Locri, restitution of their property and civic privileges was made to the citizens, and they willingly agreed to send deputies to give evidence against Flaminius at Rome. But though invited to bring complaints against Scipio, the citizens declined, saying that they were convinced that the injuries inflicted on them were neither by his orders nor with his approval. The commission, relieved of the duty of investigating such charges, nevertheless went on to Syracuse to see for themselves the military condition of his command. There are parallels in history to such a political investigation on the eve of a great military venture. The Nivelle affair is the most recent, and often they have reacted disastrously both on the confidence of the commander and the confidence of his subordinates in him. The Nivelle affair, there's so many things being referenced. I assume this might be something that occurred in World War I. Nivelle affair. The Neville affair. That's not, not Neville. Nivelle. Nivelle affair. World War I. Oh, Robert Nivelle, I assume. Franco-British operation on the Western Front. I'll have to read into that. I'm going to pin that tab about Robert Nivelle. He was a French military officer. I can only assume that similar investigations were made, and as Little points out, heavily hurt his confidence. But Scipio survived the test. Quote, while they were on their way to Syracuse, Scipio prepared to clear himself, not by words, but by facts. He ordered all his troops to assemble there and to greet, and the fleet to be got in readiness, as though a battle had to be ordered that day with the Carthaginians by land and sea. On the day of their arrival he entertained them hospitably, and on the next day presented to their view his land and sea forces, not only drawn up in order, but the former carrying out field operations, while the fleet fought a mock naval battle in the harbour. The praetor and the deputies were then conducted round to view the armories, the granaries, and other preparations for the war, and so great was the admiration aroused in them of each particular, and the whole together, that they formed the conviction that under the conduct of that general, and with that army, the Carthaginians would be vanquished, or by none other. They bid him, with the blessings of the gods, cross over. And that was Livy. These deputies were not, as the frocks of 1914 to 18, remarkable only for their ignorance of military. Like most Romans, they were men of military training and experience, and no eyewash would have deceived them. In face of such a verdict, it is surprising that a historian of the reputation of Mommsen should here again swallow Fabius's spiteful charges, and repeat as his own the opinion that Scipio failed to maintain discipline. Only a lay historian, militarily ignorant, could imagine that an army which had been allowed to run to seed could carry out the complex Roman battle drill and develop its preparations to a pitch of efficiency that not only gained the approval, but aroused the enthusiasm of this expert commission. On their return to Rome, the warmth of their praise induced the Senate to vote that Scipio should cross to Africa, and that he should be given permission to select himself out of those forces which were in Sicily. So, and he's actually italicized this, out of those forces which were in Sicily, the troops which he wanted to accompany him. The irony of this grudging and tardy permission lies in the clause in italics. He was given their blessing, and that was all. For a venture of such magnitude, he was worse supported by the Senate than even Hannibal by Carthage. Of Roman troops, apart from his own volunteers, he had in Sicily only the 5th and 6th legions, the remnants of those who had fought at Cannae, and who in punishment for their defeat had been sentenced to serve in exile in Sicily. I was just about to say, that's what happened to the survivors of the massacre of Cannae. Because clearly it was their lack of manhood, of bravery, that led to such a crushing and horrific defeat. A less understanding commander might well have hesitated to rely on troops suffering such a degradation, but, quote, Scipio was very far from feeling contempt for such soldiers, inasmuch as he knew that the defeat at Cannae was not attributable to their cowardice, and that there were no soldiers in the Roman army who had served so long or were so experienced in the various types of combat, unquote. They, on their side, were burning to wipe off the unjust stigma of disgrace, and when he declared that he would take them with him, he could feel sure but that by this proof of his trust and generosity he had won their utter devotion. He inspected them man by man, and putting aside those unfit for service, he filled up their places with his own men, bringing the strength of each legion up to 6,200 infantry and 300 horse. Roman accounts differ widely on the total strength of the force that embarked, and even in Livy's time the uncertainty was such that he preferred not to give an opinion. The smallest estimate is 10,000 foot and 200 horse. A second is 16,000 infantry and 1,600 horse. The third and largest is a total of 35,000, including horse and foot. The first is disproved by the previous facts, and these seem rather to point to the second as the correct estimate. In any case, it was slender indeed for the object aimed at. There is a striking parallel between the situation and numbers of Scipio in 204 BC and those of Gustavus Adolphus in 1630 AD. Gustavus Adolphus was a Swedish king who really brought the Swedish Empire to, I believe, its might, to its greatest extents. He created the Carolingians, a force of effectively, you could even call them religious fanatics towards Adolphus. Adolphus effectively believed that he was driven by divine decree. I believe he was Protestant, so he was fighting a lot of the Catholic nations, but he was or sent by heaven basically to command Sweden. There's stories that apparently the Carolingians, or I believe this was just a common practice, and this was during the time of line battles, where men would stand in a line and shoot at each other because muskets were so damn inaccurate. But they would march forward in step, not firing. The enemy would already be lined up, firing upon them, and they would continue marching until supposedly they could see the whites of the enemy's eyes, and then they would fire, and then they would charge. And often this, and from the perspective of psychology, if you're firing and you know the power of these weapons, you've seen men get hit by these weapons and get torn apart, fall to the floor, instantly killed or crying in pain. You've seen men shot by cannons, or groups of men shot by cannons, by grape shots, ripped apart. And yet you're seeing these men on the other side marching forward with seemingly uncaring that you're firing into them, and suddenly they stop only a couple of paces away from you. Well, tens of paces from you, fire at you, and charge, despite the fact that you see multiple of them have fallen. Must see, and I believe the English sort of applied a similar thing where when they were going to charge, when they were marching forward in their lines, they would have it set up in such a way, and because of all the smoke that military muskets would create, it would be very hard to really see what the effect was immediately. But they had it drilled into them that should the man in front of you fall, you were to march and take his place right in front. No gaps were to be filled in that line, or no gaps were to be allowed in that line, so that when the enemy would look upon the line of soldiers they've just fired upon, they would see effectively, supposedly, that their rifle fire had done nothing, and would make them more scared. Effectively, it would damage their psyche, feeling that they can't inflict damage to these people. Very interesting how much psychology goes into warfare, I think. Anyway. Where were we? Yeah. There was a striking parallel between the situation and numbers of Scipio in 204 BC and those of Gustavus Adolphus in 1630 AD, when the Swedish king crossed the Baltic to strike at the seat of the imperial power. I believe he's talking... Oh no, he's talking about Russia. Russia, I believe. Yeah, because if he's crossing the Baltic, he would be going from Sweden to Russia, I'm pretty sure. I guess he could cross down into, like, Prussia, or, like, the Holy Roman Empire, I'm not too sure. And each force, small as it was, had been welded by the training genius and personal magnetism of his leader into a superb instrument of war, a cadre or framework for the later expansion. How purely this expedition and its triumphant success was a plan and the work of Scipio can be aptly shown by quoting Mommsen, a far from friendly witness. Quote, It was evident that the Senate did not appoint the expedition, but merely allowed it. Scipio did not obtain half the resources which had formerly been placed at the command of Regulus, and he got that very corps which for years had been subjected by the Senate to intentional degradation. The African army was, in the view of the majority of the Senate, a forlorn hope of disrated companions and volunteers, whose loss in any event the Senate might had no great occasion to regret. And yet many historians assert that Rome's victory in the Punic War was due to the generous support she gave to her generals, the failure of Carthage the reverse cause. Not only were Scipio's means slender, but the African situation had changed for the worst during the years delay forced upon him by the need to raise and train his expeditionary force. In default of Rome's aid, a delay still further protracted by the Locrian inquiry. Hasdrubal, son of Gisco, and I believe that isn't Hannibal's brother. That's the other Hasdrubal. On his return from Spain, had checkmated Scipio's newly won influence over Syphax, by giving the king his daughter Sophonisba in marriage, and in return got Syphax to renew his pledge of alliance with Carthage. Still afraid that Syphax would adhere to his old pledges to Scipio, Hasdrubal, quote, took advantage of the Numidian while under the influence of the first transports of love, and calling to his aid the caresses of the bride, prevailed upon him to send envoys into Sicily to Scipio, and by them to warn him, quote, not to cross over into Africa in reliance of his former promise. The message begged Scipio to carry on the war elsewhere, so that Syphax might maintain his neutrality, adding that if the Romans came, he would be compelled to fight against them. In some ways, you could maybe question if it's not a good thing that. Well, I guess it depends on the timing. If it had been a year earlier, it probably would have been too late for Hasdrubal. But if they had been delayed for only a shorter time period, and Hasdrubal manages to hatch this plan, while Syphax is moving to join Scipio in the invasion. Well, the Roman army had already been betrayed once before by their allies, meting out death to Scipio's father and uncle. Who's to say it couldn't have happened again? Passion had beaten diplomacy. One can imagine what a blow the message proved to Scipio. Yet he determined to carry through his plan and merely sought to counteract the moral harm which might accrue if Syphax's defection became known. He sent the envoys back as quickly as possible, with a stern reminder of Syphax of his treaty obligations. Further, realizing that the envoys had been sent by many, had been seen by many, and that if he maintained silence about their visit, rumors would spread, Scipio announced to the troops that the envoys had come, like Massinissa earlier to Laelius, to urge him to hasten his invasion of Africa. It was a shrewd ruse, for the truth might have caused grave moral depression at the critical time. Scipio, wiser than the military authorities of 1914, understood crowd psychology, and knew that the lead put the worst construction on the silence of the leaders, that they assumed no news to be bad news, despite all the proverbs. Let me take a quick sip of water. And that brings us to Chapter 9. To Chapter 9, Africa. Thus, in the spring of 204 BC, Scipio embarked his army at Lilybaeum, modern Marsala, and sailed for Africa. His fleet is said to have comprised 40 warships and 400 transports, and on board was carried water rations for 55 days, of which 15 days' supply was cooked. Complete dispositions was made for the protection of the convoy by the warships, and each class of vessel was distinguished by lights at night. The transports 1, the warships 2, and his own flagship 3. It is worth notice that he personally supervised the embarkation of the troops. A huge crowd gathered to witness the departure, not only the inhabitants of Lilybaeum, but all the deputies from Sicily, as a compliment to Scipio and the troops who were being left behind. At daybreak, Scipio delivered a farewell oration and prayer, and then by a trumpet gave the signal to weigh anchor. Favoured by a strong wind, the fleet made a quick passage, and the next morning when the sun rose they were in sight of land, and could discern the promontory of Mercury, now Cape of Bon. Scipio ordered the pilot to make for a landing farther west, but a dense fog coming on later forced the fleet to cast anchor. Next morning the wind rising dispelled the fog, and the army disembarked at the fair promontory near Cape Farna, a few miles from the important city of Utica. The security of the landing was at once ensured by entrenching a camp on the nearest rising ground. There's a map. There's a map coming up. Yay. These two promontories form the horns, pointing towards Sicily. Harold, I'm reading. Stop. Stop it. You got my nose. You got my nose. Harold. Drown check. Well, I will drown check. Thank you, Harold. Thank you. How you doing? I hope you're having a nice week. We're doing a little bit of reading. We actually finished a whole chapter, and we're just into the second one. Tomorrow. I just remembered tomorrow I was singing. Yay. I love singing. I love my singing lessons. They're so fun. Even if I'm not the best of singers, it's still fun. We're doing the bass of a barbershop song. And oh my god, is it difficult. It's just such an awkward song to sing. Or part to sing, I suppose. But I'm looking forward to getting back to it. It's a shame that it's only half an hour a week. I'd definitely love to do at least an hour of singing lessons. It goes so fast. It really feels like you step in there, you do things for like 10 minutes and you're done. But welcome in, Haru. I hope you can get nice and cozy and enjoy the reading. I suppose that's kind of always the case when you're doing things you enjoy. Time flies, and I'm sure that's how you guys feel whenever I'm streaming. It's like, oh my god, it's only been 15 minutes and I'm already finishing. Or more so, it's likely that you've only just woken up and you've joined the stream and now I'm finishing. Because maybe you have to go to sleep. I don't know. Sometimes I think I should try and start earlier, but it's difficult for me because I finish up what I need to do for the day, and then I go to the gym and I go exercise. I go try and keep fit, and yeah. Real, you fell asleep in class. It felt like 10 minutes when it was actually an hour. You fell asleep in class. I remember that happened one time, and the teacher, in the Sheed Mounds, he picked up a bottle of water, and just spilled from the student's desk, and spilled a little bit on their face just to wake them up. Another just told everyone to go really quiet, and then clapped as loud as he could near their ear. Sleeping in class. It's pretty good, I have to say. No ads. I want to snooze you, and then I want to turn you off. There we go. I've been tired in class. What I used to do is when I was very tired, I would if we were like doing stuff or we were like looking at stuff in the book, I'd put my head in my hands. I would cover my eyes. So I do it like I obviously can't show you, but I'd sort of like I'd kind of like rest my head in my hand, and have my hand covering my eyes, like blocking the view of the teacher, and make it look like I'm just reading. Sometimes it seemed to have worked. Sometimes what I noticed is sometimes I would get called upon. I'd be like, Ruadh, can you pick up where we left off? And I'd be like, shit. I'd be like, oh yeah, sure. And I'd quickly look at my friend, and he'd kind of be like pointing at where we are. I'd be like, cheers. Sometimes you need your accomplices to make sure you can eat properly. I would. Just trying to think. You know what almost happened one time? One time I was asleep. I wasn't intentionally sleeping. I was just kind of starting to doze off. But I had my elbow resting on the edge of the table. I had my chin on it, and then I started to kind of go E B E B E B, and then my elbow, obviously my hand moved, and my elbow slipped, and I almost cracked my head off the table. I kind of woke up enough to lift my head up and stop that, and then bang! Yeah, I was lucky. I have cracked my head off a table once, but that was more of an annoyance because of a teacher one time. It was a rough class. It was the same thing over and over and over for like 6 weeks. It was horrible. I felt like I was learning nothing because it was just the same lecture over and over and over and over again. And everyone in the class was saying the exact same thing. It was like, oh my god, will he actually do something different? And like, it wasn't even like he was like teaching it well either. He was, hello, Jay Storm. Hello, welcome in. Thank you so much for the follow, Jay Storm. I hope you're having a lovely, lovely Tuesday, or maybe Wednesday, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us. We're doing a little bit of reading, but I'm taking a small break to just chat. You remember sleeping on the floor in class one time? Haru, you fell asleep on the floor? How did you fall asleep on the floor? How did the teacher not call you out? Were you just like, oh, hang? Did you go down to like pick up a pencil or something? And you just fell asleep. You were in the back. The floor was comfy. I've never been in a. Were you using a bag as a pillowcase? I assume you were. If I can't imagine, like most of my floors were just wooden. They were just wooden floors. It was cold, noise. Ah, okay, okay. I can only imagine the teacher's face when he looks down. He's like, Where, "Where's Haru?" And he walks down, like grumbling to himself, like. And he looks down. He just sees you eeping on the floor. He's just like, "Haru, get up!" And then he, I don't know, he like kicks you. He like kicks your butt. I don't know. I imagine you wouldn't pull that off with like the old. I never had them, but like when you used to have like nuns and such stuff teaching, they would wrap rulers across your knuckles. We love a little bit of a capital punishment on the street. He never noticed whenever you slept. Okay, you know what? In that case, then, like, I mean, if I had that type of teacher, I'd definitely be using it to sleep regularly. I'd definitely be using that to go eepy. Because sometimes you just need to catch up on sleep. Like sometimes when you're young and you're staying up until like 3 o'clock in the morning, you're just like, you just need that extra little bit of sleep time during school. I mean, are you really learning anything that important? Back seat is the best. Is the best seat. Was it exactly the back seat? Or were you like, did you ever get the protagonist seat? I always feel like the protagonist seat, there's always, I've seen different considerations of it, or configurations. I think the protagonist seat is the second last row, next to the window. It's the window seat, but it's the second last row. And then his friend, his like best friend or her best friend, is the seat behind them. I've seen people put the protagonist seat at the very back window seat. I disagree. I think it's the second one, the second row. You love the window too, but in upper floors, those are really nice. They kind of just distracted you. You know what I just thought of? Did you guys ever, when you were in like a car, look out and like you imagined a little man like running alongside the car and like doing a bunch of parkour on walls and on like wires and stuff? You did? Yes, I loved it so much. It would keep me entertained for hours. Well, not hours. Ireland isn't that big. For regular hour drives, you know, hanging off electrical wires. Yeah. He'd be like climbing along. He'd be jumping over. Sometimes he'd have to do a cartwheel over like animals or stuff. Sometimes I'd imagine him. He'd miss and he'd get like splat against the wall and he'd go he'd get stuck there, and then suddenly he'd be racing back up to get there. Spooder man. I never pictured him as like Spider-Man or like anything. I just always imagined like a stick figure. That was what was in my mind. I think what I had in mind was like those old stickmen, or animator versus animation, or like that I don't know if you guys remember this, but stickpage.com. I don't know if it's still around, but it was one of those old flash sites, and it was all stickman games. But there was all cool animations on it of like stickmen fighting. And I think that was just what was in my mind. It was like one of those, like, sometimes they would Naruto run, I would say. Sometimes they'd be running along the wall, jumping up and kind of leaping off the little high spots on the wall. They were little ninjas. But no, that was a lot of fun. It would keep me entertained for hours. I feel like I was saying something earlier about some teacher, but I can't remember. Let me take a quick sip. So sometimes I just look at my model and just like make faces at it. I like my model, my mama Enrique. There's also a teacher who just lets you sleep in class. Why do you have like the best of teachers? My teachers would not have allowed that. You love that guy. I would also love him. I would love him. I would have a man crush on him if he just let me fall asleep in class. I'd be like, that guy's so cool. He's so cool. He leaves me asleep in class. Well, then again, you could say, like, does he really care about your education? It was science class, you think? Ah, no, 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 no. I had an old female teacher. I will say she was. It's kind of hard to rate. Sometimes I felt like some of the male teachers could be very strict. But then I remember having one female teacher that was strict in the very beginning. Like, she really put her foot down when we first had her for her first year. And then we had her for a couple of years, and after that, she was really friendly, really, like, it felt like we just got so used to her, and she got so used with us that, like, we were just, nice. It was just a really nice class. But yeah, no, my science teacher, my biology teacher, was fantastic. She was so good, and I only realized just how good she was because during her time there, we were actually one of her. I think she retired in our last year. We had a H dip, and that's a term for like someone who wants to become a student or to become a teacher, like coming in and teaching them. He came in to teach us the same subject, and he was fine, but in comparison to her, it was so obvious the difference between a good teacher and a bad one. I'll just say that really made it clear. Not even a bad teacher, just an inexperienced one. Comes in, proceeds to fall in love with the new model. Oh, thank you, Lapis. I will say I currently have my pupils turned off, which I feel gives this model a little bit of a dangerous look. I can, there we go. That's my normal face, normal happy Ruadh. But then, I can turn them off. You like danger. How dangerous. This always makes me feel like I'm like some villain in a TV show. Like I can do my like evil laugh, like. I'm. No, you can't call me daddy. This is not I'm not used to that type of comments. I'm not used to those types of comments on stream. I don't encourage that. No, wait, hang on, I clicked the wrong thing. Although I did kind of like it, I will say. You were smitten by the new model. You will behave. Good girl. Oh, wait, what? How did that happen? How did I do that? No. There we go, we're back. Excellent. No, you're fine, you're fine. Don't worry, Laps. There was way worse said during the debut. During the debut, it was pandemonium. My God, it was insane during the debut. People were saying the craziest of things. They were. I feel like it. Well, yeah, not just there was some comments, and especially from some of my VTuber friends that I never expected that before. But thank you, Lapis. I'm glad you like it. I love it. It's my mama and Papa cook. He just called me good girl. Dies. It's like when Billy comes into a stream, says hi, and just immediately like scrunkles. But yeah, I still find that stuff really hard. In a way, I'm really impressed by some of the ASMR artists who can just call anyone, good girl, good boy, and a whole host of other names so easily. I find it genuinely kind of a little bit tricky, especially in an ASMR context. I don't know. Maybe I should try those. Sasa with the pet. Yes. One thing that I loved about Sasa BU for Lapis, if you don't know him, he is an ASMR VTuber. I just haven't seen him around much. I think he's so busy. But he had these like compliment me redeems, and they were so good. It was because he was a lawyer, so you know he knew how to speak well. He spoke good. He Englished good, very good word man. But he would always make them so personal. He would really I don't know, he just did it so well. Honestly, the best I've ever seen at someone doing those types of things. And jokes aside, the model looks great and fits you very well. Sorry for interrupting. No, you're fine. We were chatting away anyway. We finished a chapter a little bit ago, so it's kind of a short little break. And I started a little bit early, so I can kind of chill out a little bit. I think you love those so much. I did too. When you got them, it really felt like he was like complimenting you. It wasn't just like I don't know. You're so good. Like, see what I mean? See what I mean? Like, I tried to do it. I just immediately like just cringed up. I need to kill that part of me. I need to kill that cringe part of me. Or the part of me that feels cringe. To be able to do those types of things. But I'm glad you like it, Lapis. I love it. I love it so much. I'm gonna be honest. Even though I've had it for a while now, a little bit, I still just like open up VTube Studio or even on streams, and I'm doing it right now. I'm talking about it. I'll just make faces. I'll move around. I'll be like, oh my god. Just think that the cringe is your mind trying to stop you from greatness. I suppose so. I mean, Scipio Africanus probably thought his invasion of Africa was pretty cringe, but he just went for it anyway. Talking about. Excuse me. I'm actually going to be getting my first scab with my new model, and I always feel I feel a little bit nervous. I'll step back from you guys and stop invading your personal space. I always feel nervous because I'm like, this is a complicated model. I should probably show this off actually, Lapis, because you didn't get to see the full thing. Yeah, exactly that. There's the opposite of praise. You forgot what it's called, but you died when you redeemed it for him. That I remember he removed it. It was like insult you, and he did it once. He did it. I think he did it like a few times, and he didn't like doing it, which makes sense. I feel like he didn't like the vibe it gave. Okay, just because it's you, Haru. This is the full model. Wait, hang on. Wait, no, I'm not sized correctly. There we go. Please, you got obliterated. But I have a couple of toggles. You saw some of them. I can be angry. I can be angry at Haru for wanting to see the full model for a particular reason, not just like, oh, show off how good the model is. I can be blushing. Because you guys compliment my model. I can be disappointed, as I am very disappointed right now at Haru for typing that in my chat. I love this too. I love this face so much. It's so silly. It's like, it's the perfect, like, what did you just say? Excuse me? I can also do this. I love this one. I love this facial expression. Like I like this on emotes especially like cute emotes. But I always do this when people like head pat. Exactly. Thank you, Harold. Thank you. Me. The head pat goes on for a while. Maybe I should turn that down a little. I have. Oh wait, no. I'll have to invade your guys' personal space again. I apologize. I'm approaching your location at a rapid pace. I can cry. So this is what happens when you guys are mean to me. And you shouldn't be mean to me, especially little Rua over there. You shouldn't be mean to me or little Rua. You're in my walls now. But there are no walls. It's a forest. Are you in the trees? You're gonna get stuck in the trees. Am I gonna have to get a ladder later, Haru, and get you out of a tree? You want to be stuck in the tree? Oh no. Kiss his forehead. There, don't. Thank you. Thank you. And I can. Oh wait, hang on. Which one is that again? Oh wait, hang on. Those weren't working a moment ago, but I can make my eye pupils disappear. I can make my eyes bright and shiny. And what I've liked for this is whenever I get a follow, I kind of go. I look up. You're in the ground. Did you fall off the tree, Haru? Oh no. And then you can see the 3 layers of clothing. I can take this off. I can take the cloak off. I can have just this on. I like to think that all 3 go together very well. And then I have that little book toggle. Right, you might didn't even get to see that one. And someone asked me before already. No, this layer does not come off before anyone tries. Technically, I could with the new Twitch guides. Isn't it like it's like you can show the hips? I believe you can see how someone would ask that. Yes, someone did ask it. Someone asked it who I didn't expect. It was quite a surprise. But no, it was an interesting conversation anyway, because they were like, you should have a naked version because it's way easier then to do like different clothing and stuff. So maybe I'll go back to my mama and like if I ever considered new clothing or new outfits, I can definitely be like, I don't know, maybe I don't know, if for some reason I ever lose a bet and I have to get like a midriff outfit, that would be a concerning maid outfit. Yeah, something like that. But outfits are so expensive, they're really, oh my god. I don't know how much it would be actually on top of, I guess most of this is done already, so it would just be adding new clothing, but then you'd have to get it all rigged. It would be expensive. You can see how it's okay because you're a guy. Yes. I think I just have to keep my hips, my hips hidden. I could show off the goods up top, as some would call it. You become the maid. You become the boss. The turns have tail. No. No, I don't want that. Is that what happens on opposite day? Or like April Fools? I become the maid. Soon you will be doing your own models, at least the $3. Oh, that's so cool, Lapis. Have you been like studying how to make or like rig things? Or do you mean you'll be showing off your own ones? I'm not too sure if you mean like making your own, which is really cool. I think people who can make things, who can make models or rig models or do art, it's also cool. You're in art school to become a 3D designer and animator. Oh my god. That's so cool. That is so cool. 3D models are hard to make. I imagine so. They need to track a lot. I saw Alpin got a 3D model and I'm like, I already spent a lot on this. Do I really want to go and spend a lot on a 3D model? The answer is probably yes. But I will wait a while. But that's really cool, Lapis. I think it's so great that you're able to almost immediately apply what you're learning in school to your like hobbies like this, to your interests, and that it can help you, do things. Save up first so your wallet doesn't cry. It's already crying, but I mean it's crying from skebs. It's so cute actually. The person I most recently skebbed, they posted like. They accepted and then they posted on Twitter like, I don't know much about it was in Japanese, but they were like, I don't know much about Irish folklore or mythology, but I'll do my research before starting. Please wait patiently. And then they've been posting little updates on Pixiv, which is really sweet. Skeb addiction. No, I'm not addicted. Don't worry, totally not. Just started recently and you're already doing some work. Ooh. That ellipsis is concerning. But I will trust it's good, clean work. But that's really cool to hear. I can't wait to see what you might put out there. Especially for yourself. You can make yourself a really cool model. Like there's that guy the alien boy VTuber. He's a part of his own little clique, V-Twinks, because he draws them all. But he rigs and does his own art. Shu is his name. Shu Sakurai. He can just do anything as a VTuber because it's all his own art. That's why you love JP artists. They're so cute. They're so sweet. They're so sweet. Artists can do anything. Anything. Yes. Scary artists. You don't want to make them. You don't want to make artists too angry. So I have to be careful when I'm like bullying Haru. She could draw me in a concerning situation. I already see artists threatening to draw VTubers as pregnant. I'd rather that not. They'll draw you back. I just said it. Yeah, they're a scary bunch. A really cool bunch, but a scary bunch. You don't want to anger them. I'm getting a little bit cold, so I'm gonna put this back on. I love the blue of this background with the blue of the cloak. I think it just goes so nice. Like the nighttime look. It's so pretty. Also, the way my artist did like just designs on these and on the book as well, making that look so 3D. Or like giving it depth, I suppose is the word. The cloak is beautiful, isn't it? Hang on, let me zoom in so we can all admire it. It's so nice. The hand is very pretty. Oh, the hand? It's quite pretty, isn't it? I think both hands are quite pretty. I kind of realized only maybe too soon, too late, that the thumb rings. Oh, I can also how do I change the color of those? I think it's this button. Yeah, I can turn it silver so it matches some of my other jewelry. But I kind of like the gold because it goes with the book. Why is Haru so thirsty for hands and feet? Not judging, just asking. She's a woman, and women seem to like hands and... No, wait, they like hands. It's men who like feet. I got mixed up. It's the other way around. Women like the hands, men like the feet. It seems to be the case. You're thirsty for hands, feet. Feet are for fun. Feet are for playing footsie under the table, and then kicking because you're losing. Wait, should you like hands? Yes, I'm sorry, Lapis. You must like hands. You must appreciate hands. Men love feet. Yeah, it's a little bit concerning. I know a few of them. Some of my VTuber friends are big fans of such appendages. I often bully them for it. And they deserve it. But fun fact, I mentioned this before, but not the hand. My hand is not a supermodel's. But this is it's kind of a weird angle. How you guys can like just see my eyes. I don't know. It gives me like a hidden mysterious vibe, doesn't it? Like you can't see me. Like what does it? It makes my face look really long. Actually, I'm gonna move myself slightly up. There we go. Now I got that like hidden look vibe. Like who's this guy? But the pose for this hand, the way it's like resting on the sword, is my own hand. I use it as a reference because I couldn't find exactly what I wanted, and I knew what I wanted, so I was like, I used this. It's genetically coded. Oh, I moved you guys. I'm sorry. You must be coded wrongly. Well, I think the guys who are into feet may also be coded wrongly. So I don't know. Maybe it's adaptation. What am I talking about? But yeah, it does seem to be a thing. I found that the ladies tend to be very big fans of hands. The feet thing is also genetically coded. Yeah. But I think what I was saying was I realized that the thumb fingers are kind of like the rings are sort of like fingerless gloves. It gives those vibes, doesn't it? Am I insane for saying that? I realized too late that was the case, and I was like, oh no, are those my fingerless gloves? How did we go from sleeping in class to this? Because because chat's weird. They infect me with non-say so things, and I have to keep them in check always. Chat, yes, exactly. It's that chat the brat causing all these issues. Since when am I say so? I've always been say so, Haru. Always. Never have I had an unsay so moment in my life that wasn't caused by outside influence. I am a pure and innocent being. Exactly. See? Pure and innocent being. But I think I might get back to the reading. You've never seen an unsay so moment? Thank you, Lapis. Thank you for backing me up. Thank you. See, I'm perfectly normal. I have eyewitnesses. Eyewitnesses. Wait, hang on, let me blow myself up a little. There we go. But I'm gonna get back to the reading because I would like to at least get the next chapter done. The invasion into Africa and the Battle of Utica. Now, I lifted up my book to begin reading and it's upside down. How did I do this? I don't know. What am I looking at? Okay, there we go. There we go. Yeah. Okay. I love that emote so much. It's so cute. I use it so much. These two promontories form the horns pointing towards Sicily, or the territory of Carthage, that bull's head of land projecting into the Mediterranean which is today known as Tunisia. The horns, some 35 miles apart, enclosed a vast semicircular bay in the centre of which stood Carthage, on a small peninsula pointing east. Utica lay just below and inside the tip of the western horn, and a few miles east of the city was the Bagradus River, whose rich and fertile valley was the main source of supplies for Carthage. Another strategic point was Tunis. At the junction of the Carthage Peninsula was the mainland, geographically southwest of Carthage, but militarily east, because it lay across the landward approaches from that flank. Although the Carthaginians had long been expecting the blow, and had watchtowers on every cape, the news created feverish excitement and alarm, stimulated by the stream of fugitives from the country districts. At Carthage, emergency defensive measures were taken as if Scipio was already at the gates. The Romans' first step was clearly to gain a secure base of operations, and with this aim, his preliminary move was against Utica. And I actually have a map for, I'm guessing, was a battle of Utica. Let me see, where did I put those books, or those images that I took? Reading images, Scipio. Is it that one? Yes, it's this one. I love maps when you're reading about battles and stuff. I'm just sad that they didn't give like a map of Italy. Sorry, little Ruadh, you have to get kind of covered a little bit. Sorry. You can see his little smug face. You can see comfy Ruadh's little that. But other than that, you just get the thing. So this might help understand what we're going to be reading. Where were we? His fleet was dispatched there forthwith, while the army marched overland, his advanced guard cavalry encountering a body of 500 Carthaginian horse, who had been sent to reconnoitre and interrupt the landing. After a sharp engagement, these were put to flight. A still better omen was the arrival of Massinissa, true to his word, to join Scipio. Livy states that the earlier sources from which he compiled his history differed as to the strength of Massinissa's reinforcement, some saying that he brought 200 horse, some 2,000. Livy accepts the smaller estimate, for the very sound reason that Massinissa, after his return from Spain, had been driven out of his father's kingdom by the joint efforts of Syphax and the Carthaginians. and for the past year and more had been eluding pursuit by repeated changes of quarter. An exile who had escaped from the last battle with only 60 horsemen, it is unlikely that he could have raised his band of followers to any large proportions. Meanwhile, the Carthaginians dispatched a further body of 4,000 horse, mainly Numidians, to oppose Scipio's advance and gain time for Syphax and Hasdrubal to come to their aid. To their ally and to their chief general in Africa, the most urgent messages had been sent. Hanno with 4,000 cavalry occupied a town, Selaca, about 15 miles from the Roman camp near Utica. And it is said by Livy that Scipio, on hearing of this, remarked, quote, "What? Cavalry lodging in houses during the summer? Let there be even more in number while they have such a leader." Concluding that the more dilatory they were in their operations, the more active he ought to be, he sent Massinissa forward with the cavalry, directing him to ride up to the gates of the enemy and draw them out to battle. And when their whole force had poured out and committed themselves thoroughly to the attack, then to retire by degrees, Scipio himself waited for what he judged sufficient time for Massinissa's advanced party to draw out the enemy, and then followed with the Roman cavalry. Quote, proceeding without being seen, under cover of some rising ground. He took up a position near the so-called Tower of Agathocles, the Tower of Agathocles, on the northern slope of a saddle between two ridges. So let me take a quick look at this map myself and see if I can understand what's happening. So you have Scipio's camp, you have Massinissa. It's a little bit difficult. Oh no, that's after they come into blows against Hasdrubal. So the first top part is his ambush of Hanno, which we just read there. So he sent them along. He sent Massinissa to. Oh wait, I have my pointer. I have my little pointer. So he sent Massinissa. Wait, where is my pointer? There it is. Here to draw out the Hanno-led Carthaginian horse, while he flanked around, using this as cover, and has come onto their side. Massinissa, following Scipio's plan, made repeated advancements and retirements. At first he drew out small skirmishing parties, then counterattacked them so that Hanno was forced to reinforce them, lured them on again by a simulated retreat, and repeated the process. At last Hanno, irritated by these tactical tricks, so typical of the Parthians and Mongols later, sallied forth with his main body, whereupon Massinissa retired slowly, drawing the Carthaginians along the southern side of the ridges and past the saddle which concealed the Roman cavalry. When the moment was ripe, Scipio's cavalry emerged and encircled the flank and rear of Hanno's cavalry, while Massinissa, turned about, attacked them in front. The first line of 1,000 were surrounded and slain, and of the remainder 2,000 were captured or killed in a vigorous pursuit. I was only just thinking that this kind of fake charge, or kind of charge and roll back and charge again, sounds very much like the Parthians and the Mongols. That was very much what it was reminding me of before it even mentioned it in the text. Scipio followed up this success by a 7-day circuit through the countryside, clearing it of cattle and supplies and creating a wide devastated zone as a barrier against attacks. Security in both supply and protection. Thus effected, he concentrated his efforts on the siege of Utica, which he wanted for his base of operations. Utica, however, was not destined to be a second Cartagena. Although he combined attack from the sea by the marines with the land assault, the fortress defied all his efforts and ruses. Hasdrubal by this time had collected a force of 30,000 foot and 300,000 horse, but with painful recollections of the maulings he had suffered in Spain, did not venture to move to Utica's relief until reinforced by Syphax. When the latter at last came, with an army stated to have been 50,000 foot and 10,000 horse, the menace compelled Scipio to raise the siege after 40 days. Faced with such a concentration of hostile force, Scipio's situation must have been hazardous, but he extricated himself without mishap and fortified a camp for the winter on a small peninsula connected to the mainland by a narrow isthmus. This lay on the eastern or Carthage side of Utica, thus lying on the flank of any relieving force, and was later known as Casta Cornelia. So you can see it's up there in the corner, Casta Cornelia. On this little... now I see how they've done this. So this is the first event, obviously, and then this is the second, but this is all the one area. So all this happened in this region in Africa. But this is kind of what they mean by a little isthmus. This little peninsula is kind of pushing out. Excuse me. Where were we? The enemy then encamped some 7 miles farther east, covering the approaches to the river Bargadas. Just click. There we go. If there is a parallel between Scipio's landing in Africa and Gustavus's landing in Germany, so he was attacking the Germans. I thought he was... It mentions Gustavus Adolphus, King of Sweden, crossing the Baltic Sea, but I thought if he was doing that, he was crossing over to Russia. Because I mentioned an imperial power, and there was a Russian empire, but I guess it was the Holy Roman Empire, or the German Empire at this stage. If there's a parallel between Scipio's landing in Africa and Gustavus's landing in Germany, there is still a more striking parallel between their action during the first season of on hostile soil. Both campaigns, to the unmilitary critic, appear limited in scope compared with the avowed object which they had set forth. Both generals had been criticized for overcaution, if not hesitation, and both were justified not only by the result, but by the science of war. Scipio and Gustavus alike, unable for reasons outside their control to adjust the means to the end, displayed that rare strategical quality of adjusting the end to the means. Their strategy foreshadowed Napoleon's maxim that, quote, "The whole art of war consists in a well-ordered and prudent defense, followed by a bold and rapid offense." Both sought first to lay the foundations for the offensive, which followed by gaining a secure base of operations, where they could build up their means to a strength adequate to ensure the attainment of their end. Gustavus is known to have been a great student of the classics. Was his strategy in 1630 perhaps a conscious application of Scipio's method? Nor is this campaign of Gustavus's the only military parallel with Scipio's that history records. For the action of Wellington in fortifying and retiring behind the lines of Torres Vedras in 1810 to checkmate the French superior concentration of force had a vivid reminder, both topographical and strategical, of Scipio's action in face of the concentration of Syphax and Hasdrubal. In this secure retreat, Scipio devoted the winter to build up his strength and supplies for the next spring's campaign. Besides the corn he had collected in his preliminary foraging march, he obtained a vast quantity from Sardinia, and also fresh stores of clothing and arms from Sicily. The success of his landings, his sharp punishment of the Carthaginian attempts to meet him in battle, and above all the fact that he had dissipated the terrors of the unknown, had falsified all the fears of the wiseacres. By holding his own, small though his force, on the dreaded soil of Africa, almost at the gate of Carthage, all these factors combined to turn the current of opinion and arouse the state to give him adequate support. Reliefs were sent to Sicily so that he could reinforce his strength with the troops at first left behind for local defense. But as usual, while seeking to develop his own strength, he did not overlook the value of subtracting from the enemies. He reopened negotiations with Syphax, whose passions for his bride he thought might now perhaps have become satiated from unlimited enjoyment. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm clicking the wrong things. Unlimited enjoyment. In these he was disappointed, for while Syphax went so far as to suggest terms of peace by which the Carthaginians should quit Italy in return for a Roman evacuation of Africa, he did not hold any hope that he would abandon the Carthaginian cause if the war continued. For such terms Scipio had no use, but he only rejected them in a qualified manner, in order to maintain a pretext for his emissaries to visit the hostile camp. The reason was that he had conceived a plan whereby to weaken the enemy and anticipate the attack that he feared owing to the enemy's heavy superiority of numbers. Some of his earlier messengers to Syphax had reported that the Carthaginians' winter huts were built almost entirely of wood, and those of the Numidians of interwoven reeves and matting, disposed without order or proper intervals, and that a number even lay outside the ramparts of the camps. This news suggested to Scipio the idea of setting fire to the enemy's camp and striking a surprise blow in the confusion. You retire your previous statement. You just saw something sus. I was reacting to what the text said. The text said it's no. You misunderstood. You misunderstood. Unlimited enjoyment of pure love. Pure love. He was very happy with his wife. That's it. That's all. Therefore, in his later embassies, Scipio sent certain expert scouts and picked centurions dressed as officers' servants. While the conferences were in progress, these rambled through the camp, both that of Syphax and of Hasdrubal, noting their approaches and entrances and studying the general plan of the camps, the distance between them, and methods of stationing guards and outposts. With each embassy, too, a different lot of observers were sent, so that a large number as possible should familiarize themselves with the lie of the enemy camps. As a result of their reports, Scipio ascertained that Syphax's camp was the more inflammable and the easier to attack. I feel like this should be flammable rather than inflammable. Let me take a quick sip of water, please. He then sent further envoys to Syphax, who was hoping for peace, with instructions not to return until they received a decisive answer on the proposed terms, saying that it was time that either an agreement was settled or the war vigorously prosecuted. After consultation between Syphax and Hasdrubal, they apparently decided to accept, whereupon Scipio made further stipulations as a suitable way of terminating the truce, which he did next day, informing Syphax that while he himself desired peace, the rest of the council were opposed to it. By this means he gained freedom to carry out his plan without breaking his faith, though he undoubtedly went as close to the border between strategical ruse and deliberate craft as was possible without overstepping it. Syphax, much vexed at this breakdown of negotiations, at once conferred with Hasdrubal, and it was decided to take the offensive and challenge Scipio to battle, on level ground if possible. But Scipio was ready to strike, his preparations completed. Even in his final preparations, he sought to mystify and mislead the enemy in order to make his surprise more effective. The orders issued to the troops spoke of the surprise being aimed at Utica. He launched his ships and mounted on board siege engines as if he was about to assault Utica from the sea, and he dispatched 2,000 infantry to seize a hill which commanded the town. This move had a dual purpose: to convince the enemy that his plan was directed against Utica, and to occupy the city garrison to prevent them from making a sortie against his camp, while he marched out to battle the hostile camps. Thus he was able to achieve economy of force, by concentrating the bulk of his troops for the decisive blow, and leaving only a slight force for the guard of the enemy, and thus once more he did not lose sight of the principle of security in carrying out that surprise. He had fixed the enemy's attention in the wrong direction. About midday he summoned a conference of his ablest and most trusted tribunes and disclosed his plans. To this conference he summoned the officers who had been at the enemy's camp. Quote, he questioned them closely and compared the accounts they gave of the approaches and entrances of the camp, letting Massinissa decide and follow his advice, and following his advice owing to his personal knowledge of the ground. Then he ordered the tribunes to give the troops their evening meal early, and led the legions out of the camp after retreat had been sounded as usual. On this point, Polybius adds the interesting note that, quote, it is the custom among the Romans at supper time for the trumpeters to sound their instruments outside the general's tent as a signal that it is time to set the night watches at their several posts. About the first watch, the troops were formed up in march order and moved off on their 7-mile march, and about midnight arrived in the vicinity of the hostile camps, which were just over a mile apart. So you can see, he's saying that the Syphax's camp and Hasdrubal's camp were just a mile apart, but they're setting out from Castra Cornelia down here along this march in the night. Thereupon, Scipio divided his force, placing all of the Numidians and half his legionaries under Laelius and Massinissa, with orders to attack Syphax's camp. The two commanders he first took aside and urged on them the need for caution, emphasizing that, quote, the more the darkness and night attacks, hinders, and impedes the sight, the more must one supply the place of actual vision by skill and care. He further instructed them that he would wait to launch his attack on Hasdrubal's camp until Laelius had set fire to the other camp, and with this purpose marched his own men at a slow pace. Laelius and Massinissa, dividing their force, attacked the camp from two directions simultaneously, a convergent maneuver, and Massinissa also posted his Numidians, because of their knowledge of the camp, to cut off the various exits of escape. So you can see here, it's a little bit cut off, but Laelius break off from the main army. Laelius and Massinissa, Laelius attacking from the south, Massinissa going around and attacking from the, that would be from the west. Sorry, I forgot my directions for a moment. As had been foreseen, once the leading Romans had set the fire alight, it spread rapidly along the first row of huts, and in a brief while the whole camp was aflame, because of the closeness of the huts and the lack of proper intervals between rows. Fully imagining that it was an accidental conflagration, Syphax's men rushed out of their huts unarmed, and in a disorderly flight. Many perished in their huts while half asleep. Many were trampled to death in the frenzied rush for the exits, while those who escaped the flames were cut down unawares by the Numidians posted at the gates of the camp. Meanwhile, at the Carthaginian camp, the soldiers aroused by the sentries' report of the fire in the other camp, and seeing how vast was the volume of flame, rushed out of their own camp to assist in extinguishing the fire. They also, imagining it an accident in Scipio 7 miles distant. This was as Scipio had hoped and anticipated, and he at once fell on the rabble, giving orders to not let a man escape, to give warning to the troops still in the camp. Instantly he followed this up by launching his attack on the gates of the camp, which were unguarded as a result of the confusion. By the cleverness of his plan in attacking Syphax's camp first, he had turned the advantage the fact that a number of the latter's huts were outside the ramparts and so easily accessible, and had created the opportunity to force the gates of the better protected Carthaginian camp. The first troops inside set fire to the nearest huts, and soon the whole camp was aflame. The same scenes of confusion and destruction being here repeated, and those who escaped through the gates meeting their fates at the hands of the Roman parties posted for the purpose. Quote, Hasdrubal at once desisted from any attempt to extinguish the fire, as he knew now from what had befallen him that the calamity which had overtaken the Numidians was not, as they had supposed, the result of chance, but was due to the initiative and daring of the enemy. He therefore forced his way out and escaped, along with only 2,000 foot and 500 horsemen, half armed and many wounded or scorched. With this small force he took refuge in a nearby town, but when Scipio's pursuing troops came up, and seeing that the inhabitants were disaffected, he resumed his flight to Carthage. Syphax, who had also escaped, probably with a larger proportion, retired to a fortified position at Abba, a town quite close. The armies of Sennacherib, I don't know who that is, Sennacherib. Let me quickly look that name up. Sennacherib, king of Assyria, of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, of the death of his father, Sargon II of Akkad. That's Sargon II, not Sargon of Akkad. Or is that Sargon of Akkad? Yeah, Sargon of Akkad. 24 to 23rd BC. Okay, no, that's a different Sargon completely. Excuse me, I'm looking at stuff. One of the most famous for the role he plays in the Hebrew Bible, which describes the campaign of the Levant. Okay. So he suffers a defeat. The armies of Sennacherib had not suffered a swifter, more unexpected or complete fate than those of Hasdrubal and Syphax. So I wonder, can we see, if I type in defeat, okay, there's so much to talk about that guy that I don't think I'm going to be able to find out who that is. But we can just continue our reading. According to Livy, 40,000 men were either slain or destroyed by the flames, and about 5,000 were captured, including many Carthaginian nobles. As a spectacle of disaster, it surpasses any in history. Polybius, who presumably got his information from Laelius and other eyewitnesses, thus describes it. Quote, "The whole place was filled with wailing and confused cries, panic, fear, strange noises, and above all raging fire and flames that overbore all resistance, things any one of which would be sufficient to strike terror into a human heart. And how much more this extraordinary combination of them all? It is not possible to find any other disaster which, however magnified, could be compared with this. So much did it exceed in horror all previous events. Therefore, of all the brilliant exploits performed by Scipio, this seems to me the most brilliant and most adventurous." In Carthage, the news caused great alarm and anxiety. Hasdrubal's purpose in retreating there had been to allay the panic and forestall any capitulation. His presence and his resolute spirit was needed. The Carthaginians had expected with the spring campaign to find their armies shutting in Scipio on the cape near Utica, cutting him off from land and sea. Finding the tables so dramatically turned, they swung from confidence to extreme despondency. At an emergency debate in the Senate, 3 different options were put forward: to send envoys to Scipio to treat for peace, to recall Hannibal, or to raise fresh levies and urge Syphax to renew the struggle in cooperation with them. The influence of Hasdrubal, combined with the fact of all of the Barcine party, carried the day. I remember Scipio, or Hasdrubal and Hannibal are of the Barca family, so that's their kind of political sway. Carried the day, and the last policy was adopted to raise fresh troops. It is worth a passing note, in the view of the charge of ultra-Roman prejudice often made against Livy, that he speaks with obvious admiration of this third motion, which breathed the spirit of a Roman constancy and adversity. And that's something you notice about the Romans. For whatever reason, those people would not quit. Really, what happens at Utica is essentially their Cannae. Cannae. Where Hannibal inflicted massive killings upon the Romans. Slaughtering, I believe it was like 15% of their fighting males at that battle, something like that anyway, or even more perhaps over the course of the various defeats he gave them. But it seems to be a thing with the Romans where if they lose, if they were to lose like 3 legions, they'll raise 6 legions in response. For somehow they just had millions of men. I don't know. They just had so many people. But really they were just irresolute and unyielding, I think. Syphax and his Numidians had at first decided to continue their retreat, and abandoning their war, retire to their own country, but three influences caused them to change their minds. These were the pleadings of Sophonisba, the sister of Hasdrubal, to Syphax not to desert her father and his people, the prompt arrival of the envoys from Carthage, and the arrival of a body of over 4,000 Celtiberian, and the Celtiberians are the I believe the Spanish mercenaries from Spain. It just says that they're a particular tribe, whose numbers were exaggerated by popular rumour, doubtless inspired by the war party, to 10,000. Accordingly, Syphax gave the envoys a message that he would cooperate with Hasdrubal and show them the first reinforcement of fresh Numidian levies who had arrived. By energetic recruiting, Hasdrubal and Syphax were able to take to the field again within 30 days, joining forces and entrenched a camp on the Great Plain. Their strength is put at between 30 and 35,000 fighting men. A lot of territory, well organized and very militarily inclined. So yeah, they trained a lot of men. Yeah, the Romans were pretty mad, were pretty crazy. But like their systems of government was, I guess, just perfect for what. And obviously they regularly changed things and adapted to the circumstances. That's probably one of their other major strengths, is their ability to adapt. Like, I know people often picture the Roman legionary as like they picture the guy in the segmata armor, the big shield, but they always had the shields, but they regularly adapted to what was needed. You just arrived? Well, welcome in, lass, a lot. Welcome in. Still no push-ups. I actually forgot. Oh my god, that's really loud for ASMR. Oh, yo. Hello. You know what, Lancelot? I actually have forgotten, so I will give you free push-ups. But let me very quickly welcome in Shuli VT. Welcome in, Shuli. Thank you so much for you genuinely have to sleep. Have a good sleep, Lancelot. No worries. Hello everyone, and thank you so much for sharing your community. My name is Rua Uaquilta. I'm a half human, half Tua Hade. Let me very quickly shout out Shuli VT. There we go. I apologize to anyone who has been listening who just got blasted in the ears by a war horn. Well, it's not really a war horn. It's a signaling horn. I forgot to turn down my alerts. I always forget something. But I hope you guys had a nice stream. And I hope you guys are relaxing. Surely, if you need to go rest at all after a long, hard stream, please do. Go get yourself some food or some water or something else. And hope you have a nice post-stream rest. What we're currently doing right now is we're reading a little bit about Scipio Africanus, the great Roman general of the 3rd century BC. BC, my voice cracked a little bit. I promise I'm not like a boy just going through puberty. I've been reading for a lot. But but we're getting to his invasion of Africa, and he's just inflicted a massive defeat upon the Carthaginians and the Numidians at Utica. But it seems they have been capable, similar to the Romans, of immediately putting out another massive army. So let's see how Scipio might have to deal with this. I think I'm going to remove that. There we go. You guys can see little Ruas fully. Little Ruru. Scipio, after his dispersion of the enemy's field forces in the recent surprise, had turned his attention to the siege of Utica, in order to gain the secure base which he wanted as a prelude to further operations. It is evident that he intentionally refrained from pressing the retreat of Syphax, for such pressure by forcing the latter to fight would tend to pour fresh fuel on a fire that was flickering out itself. The ground for such a hope we have already shown, as also the factors which cause this disappointment. Polybius gives us a valuable sideline of this juncture on Scipio's care and forethought for his troops. Quote, He also at the same time distributed the booty, but expelled the merchants who were making too good an affair of it. For as their recent success had made them form a rosy picture of the future, the soldiers attached no value to their actual booty, and were very ready to dispose of it for a song to the merchants. When the news reached Scipio of the junction of the Carthaginian and Numidian forces and of their approach, he acted promptly. Leaving only a small detachment to keep up the appearance of a siege by land and sea, he set out to meet the enemy, his whole force being in light marching order. He evidently judged that rapidity was the key to this fresh menace, to strike before they could weld their new force into a strong weapon. On the 5th day he reached the great plain, and fortified a small camp on a hill some 3.5 miles distant from the enemy's camp. The 2 following days he advanced his forces, harassing the enemy's outposts, in order to tempt them out to battle. The bait succeeded on the 3rd day, and the enemy's combined army came out to their camp and drew up in order of battle. Let me see if there's another map, because this seems like we're just... Aha. Oh, no, but this is a really good map for seeing the territory of Carthage. Let me get this up. There we go. It's a little bit large, but there we go. Oh, no, I have to... Wait, no, if I move over... Hang on. If I move over, I won't have to block Ruadh. I'll move myself over here. And there we go. Okay. We'll have to cover him a little bit, but I don't want to cover you guys either. So you guys can see some of the areas that we've been talking about. You see Utica up here, Carthage itself. So you can see he landed very close to Carthage. You can see the Great Plains. Can we see the final strategic moves leading up to the Battle of Zama? So I'm guessing this has to do with... You can see his march from Utica along the Bargadus River to the Great Plains, where he's now meeting the Carthaginians once more. Where were we? They placed the Celtiberians, their picked troops, in the centre, the Numidians on the left, and the Carthaginians on the right. Quote, Scipio simply followed the usual Roman practice of placing the maniples of Hastati in front, behind the Principes, and hindermost of all the Triarii. He disposed his Italian cavalry on his right, facing Syphax's Numidians, and Massinisa's Numidians on his left, facing the Carthaginian horse. At the first encounter, the enemy's wings were so broken by the Italian and Massinisa's cavalry, Scipio's rapidity of march and foresight in striking before Hasdrubal and Syphax had consolidated their raw levies was abundantly justified. Moreover, on one side, morale was heightened by recent successes, and on the other, lowered by recent disaster. In the centre, the Celtiberians fought staunchly, knowing that flight was useless because of their ignorance of the country, and that surrender was futile because of their treason in coming from Spain to take service against the Romans. And remember, at this point, Scipio has effectively conquered Spain and conquered all the tribes there. It would appear that Scipio used his second and third lines, the Principes and Triarii, as a mobile reserve to attack the Celtiberians' flank, instead of to reinforce the Hastati directly, as was the normal custom. Thus, surrounded on all sides, the Celtiberians were cut to pieces where they stood, though only after an obstinate resistance, which enabled the commanders Hasdrubal and Syphax, as well as a good number of the fugitives, to make their escape. Hasdrubal with his Carthaginian survivors found shelter in Carthage, and Syphax with his cavalry retreated home to his own capital, Cirta. Those Romans conquering your people? Oh no, Lapis, oh no. I'm sorry. They conquered a lot of people. I think most people can. Thank you, Lee. Hello, D. Welcome in. Thank you for the head pat. How's my favorite Angel VTuber doing? But yes, Lapis, they have conquered many people. Not the Gael. They didn't conquer the Gael. Not us. Or the Scottish. They didn't conquer the Scottish. But the Scottish at this point, had the Dalriata invaded Scotland by then? They invaded, I think, a little bit during that point. D. Harold. Cute. Cute. But welcome in, D. I hope you're having a nice week. You're on Wednesday now. You're ahead of us in the future. That head pat is weirdly detailed. It's a unique head pat that I bought. It's pretty good. I like it. I like how it curves down the side of my face. Like it head pats the top and then goes down and then moves over. And that D, or no, Haru. I'm sorry. I blame D. Stop poking me. Ugh. Stop. Ugh. Disgusting. My viewers poking me in the face. That's another one I have then, the face poke. That one's quite cute. I stole these. I stole the idea of getting them from Scipio. I knew he had them, so I was like, I must have them. Because I also liked poking him in the face. Picking Rua's nose, Redeem. No, don't pick my nose. That's icky. Don't pick my nose. It's only my nose. It's only me who can pick my nose. You can boot my nose though. When face poking, if I face a certain way, at a certain distance, you can boot me on the nose, and maybe I'll allow that. I might allow boots. Need gloves for that, D. I would hope you guys would wear gloves. I don't want you guys picking my nose at all. But if you have to, please wear gloves for both of our sakes. You weirdos. Why do I give you guys the powers to do these things? Stop. Gob. Gwynny. Stop. Stop it. Stop. Poking me. Well, welcome in, Miss Gwynny Gobubus. I hope you're having a nice Tuesday, I assume. Yeah, it would still be Tuesday, I think. Just a really long nail will do. No, it's gonna like cut me. I don't want a really long nail. Tuesday, innit? It's fucking Tuesday. Ugh, had to deal with the week. But you know, when the week's over, we're all gonna go down to the pub. This is again more Australian. My British accent is not there. Yeah, let me. Yeah, I guess it's kind of I can't do a London accent. I can try, but I was gonna be like, we'll all go down to the pub, and we'll all get a pint, and we'll all say cheers, Bush. It's gonna go under the nail. Ew, icky. You'll get in there one day, folks. I don't want you guys to get in my nose. You are not allowed. Finger my nose. That's not happening. You can poke my face. You can poke my nose. You can boop it. Stop. Cease this insolence. Cease. The military discipline is breaking down in Ruadh's camp. All the girls are trying to poke my nose. They need to cease. I must hunker down. I can't hide behind my book. I wish I could like bring my book up to my face to protect me. That would be funny. I hide my book. Lapis isn't. Lapis, you're one of the good ones. You must help restore order. You must help restore an order. Beat them with a stick. Because I can't do that. I'll get in trouble if I do that. You're the best behaved here. You are, Lapis. You're a very good girl. Thank you. Thank you for being well behaved. The rest of them are not. Quick pinches nose so he sounds nasally.
No, I just sound like Squidward. I just sound like Squidward when I do this. Gobubus.
Thank you, Sicko Mike. Thank you. Thank you for the head pat. Thank you, thank you. And thank you for the first time chat as well. Pokes this cutie from the war host of Fionn. Thank you. Yes, I am a Fenian warrior. Squidward Quilta. Hashtag my experience with Ruadh. I've said this before. When my expose happens, when I get exposed, I need all of you. I need to be on like 50 different social medias and like drives. I need people to be posting Google Docs. I want an Excel sheet. I want an Excel sheet expose. None of this Google Docs or Word Docs. I want an Excel. I want to see if functions. I want to see nested if functions. I want to see a VLOOKUP. I want to see a VLOOKUP used to chart my horrid actions. A PowerPoint, yes, I need a PowerPoint, and it has to be in Irish too. A high tier cancellation, a Prezi, yes. I want to be on TMZ. You've been lurking since Scipio episode 2, but you appreciate the classical literature ASMR. That's always here. Thank you, Mike. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I have on my VOD channel, which I really should set up some redeem that'll or not redeem, like a command that allows me to. Welcome in. Thank you so much for the follow, Sick, Mike. Very much appreciated. I apologize you have to deal with me me rambling about things. I really should have my media sources up here so that was always show true. You have to deal with me being assaulted by my other viewers and trying to pick my nose or pinching my nose. But very much appreciated. I'll get a link set up for a command set up for my VOD channel where you can find some other of the books that we read, including things to do with the philosophy of mind, medieval Ireland, the Trojan War. Join us? No, don't join them, Sick of Mike. Don't join them. Picks. You got autobotted. You got autobotted because you called me a Fenian. For those of you who don't know, Fenian is sometimes used as a derogatory term for Irish people by Ulster, by like Ulster Unionists. More so Fenian. Fenian kind of became a term by the English for kind of the wild Fenians, who would attack them. You know, they were seen as uncivilized, and then the Ulster. Oh God, what am I thinking? I'm thinking of like the more extreme versions of the Ulster groups, the Unionists. Not the Unionists. I'm thinking of the. Oh God, that term has suddenly gone from my head. But the ones who would engage in sectarian violence alongside the Catholics, which is always great fun. They would sometimes call refer to the Irish people as Fenians, but I take on that term with pride. I mean, I literally refer to myself as a Fenian warrior on Twitter, which would make it really funny if someday I got like picked up by like if like Ulster Unionist Twitter picked me up and was like, this guy's calling himself a Fenian. That would be really funny. Wild Ruadh will attack us. Yeah, I'm out in the hills. If you guys go traveling at night, there's a chance that Ruadh might come out and catch you. You guys better be careful. Nor not the Northerners. Oh God. Hi. The Northerners? Ugh. That's more of a Scottish. Nah. Car. Sorry, I have to try and get into a Northern accent. That might be the hardest accent. Like Scottish, I almost feel like Northern Irish is harder than Scottish, even though Scottish has so much various terms. No, I'm gonna grab, especially like you're pretty good at hiding, Gwynny, but I think I'd catch you unawares and I'd steal away with a goblin, and then I could ransom. I'm sure I could ransom a goblin for a lot of money to fund my Fenian war efforts. And by Fenian war efforts, I mean buying books, because I need books. Yourself being a coast dweller, and this is a rational fear that the gales will raid your city. I could be like the Dalrieta raiding into your cities and I could even take over. The Dalrieta were a North Irish tribe that invaded. They were part of the Ula, I believe, the Kingdom of Ula, And they invaded Scotland actually and displaced the Picts and kind of merged with the Picts. I love that animated emote so much. It's so funny. Just the explosion. I need to my friend Olga Okami has Mike, maybe I can steal away with you and you can become part of my little camp. You can become, I don't know, we'll train you in the ways of the Fenians or the Fenian warriors. But my friend Olga Okami has gotten some really cute emotes made for me. Well, she made them herself, I should say. Some animated ones, which I'm being bonked in the head, or I'm like, there's like a, it's not really crying. It's like a sad face, or it's like a, how would you describe it? Wiggly mouth is the only term I can describe it. It's very cute, and also, and also this Bateman, this like American Psycho Patrick Bateman Ruadh. I posted it in my Discord, but it's it's really funny. So I need to get that set up. There were just some issues with like animated emote requirements. Please do. You love that? Oh, very cool. Well, I'm very much you might really enjoy my readings of the most recent reading I did, which I think a VOD might still remain of the latest of the latest chapter, or kind of end of that book, of reading all about medieval Ireland from 400 to 1600 AD. Really, really interesting book by Claire Downham. Hello, Rob. 10. Wait, no. Hello, Rob. 1037. Hello, all. That's cute. He was only saying hello to me first time, but then he made sure that it was everyone. But thank you so much for the first time chat, Rob. Welcome in, welcome in. You may have tuned in a little bit for that stream. Aw, cute. That's good. That's good. So I hope you can. If I don't know. If I feel like the reading streams are probably the best type of VODs to go watching. Hello, I also love that animated emote, the sus emote, especially the fact I could make it run up on people. It's perfect for running, for the running emote. That, you know what that one reminds me of? That reminds me of you can just call you Rob. I will just call you Rob. Saying the full names is tricky. It reminds me of the Virtual Insanity video. You guys know the Virtual Insanity one, where like he gets into that pose, he's like holding out his hand and he just slowly comes closer. I can't do it because this jitters, but it's a very slow approach until he's like almost touching your face. He gets closer and closer and closer and closer. Wow, and closer. Okay, this is about as close as I could get. I can't get any closer. Hello. Personal space? I don't know what that is. No. Stop. No, don't you. Ah, my nose. Ah, your guys' aims are getting better. Your aim is better because I'm closer. You got me on the bridge of my nose. On the boop part of my nose. Virtual Insanity, but rotoscoped with JoJo characters. I like your thoughts. And the invasion of privacy. Wait, I might actually be able to get closer, but I have to lean in. I could go into settings, but that's a bit much. Maybe someday I'll make the settings so I can really lean in and out, and come right up again, right towards you guys. I'll be like coming out of the screen. I expect if I was to like try and come out of the screen, I do it. You know, when I watch those like muscular male VTubers, because they tend to be the ones that do it a lot. I don't know if it's because it looks better with like the wide shoulders. The Barra VTubers, that's the word I was looking for. When they lean forward and back, and like a lot of their movement is down at the hips, or not the hips, sorry, the waist. No. I remember a rigger talking about this before. They were saying that like you model female VTubers from the hips, I think, and then the male VTubers, you tend to focus movement around the waist, because that's like how men move or something. Like to do what, you know, stereotypical, not stereotypical, but like your average male female bodies. You love when they lean in, yeah, like. No. Wait, hang on. Let me real quick. Where's my parameters again? I need to see. No, it's not. No, it's this one. I think it's. Is it Z? Oh. Guys, I fell. I fell and I can't get up. Help me. Help me. But now I can. Hang on. Now if I come really close. I'll have to start like down here. Hello. Look. Stop. Get off me. Oh no, I moved it. Get back on me. Oh, I hope I didn't mess something up. I'm sure it's fine. I had a 3. Oh my god, everything's messed up. No, get back on my face. Oh wait, the face hold. What have I done? Okay, there we go. There we go. Things. Okay, I'm not playing around with settings anymore. I gotta get out of here. I'm freaking myself out. Okay, there we go. There we go. Let me get my face back to normal. I'll come a little bit closer. I was trying to move myself and you guys kept redeeming to like hold my face or poke me. And I kept moving things. For a second it almost looked like the neck grab. Thank you for the idea. I may need to consider that one. You should go back to study, have fun. Thank you so much for joining, Lapis. Sorry, the stream went weird from reading. I don't know what's going on. I'm very confused. You felt the attempt. I did try and lean in, and then big Ruadh. I got very small and then very big. But good luck with study. I hope it goes well. What are you guys aiming? Yeah, so I mean. You guys saying you don't want to grab my neck? That's very rude of you guys to say, you know. It's very rude for you guys to say that you don't want to grab my neck. Do you guys know that when you I was about to say something not say so. I was about to explain how you do how you Ruadh is good. Ruadh is a good boy. He doesn't say those things. Thank you, D. Yes, I will take a sip of water. Thank you. Maybe I should do like a. I need to shill my marshmallow more, because then people can anonymously ask me things and I can answer them on stream, and maybe I'll allow slightly unsay-so questions. Not too much though. Not too much, but I'll consider it. I think I need to try and do something that's fun. No. You guys are already you're going too much. You're going too much. Like you guys could, for example, ask me to explain what I was going to explain. But can I go back to my reading? I'm suddenly feeling I'm genuinely flushed. It's always the book clubs that get a bit rowdy. I know. There's something about ancient Roman history that really gets the blood pumping, huh? That really gets the blood flowing. How many pages do I have left of this chapter? A good few. Hang on. Okay, 151. That's fine. Yes, back to your reading. Back to the reading so you can enjoy your coffee. Ooh, I hope you're having a nice coffee. I don't know. I don't drink coffee. I'm sorry. You have the monopoly on creepy marshmallows. You know, okay, hang on. Because I want to. Are you okay with me reading that on stream, D? Are you okay with reading that on stream? Because D sent me a marshmallow. Sure. We both love a VTuber by the name of Genzuki Tojiro. Stop it. Stop. No. 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 I need to put a limit on that. You guys are getting wacky. I think I accidentally chinned you guys on my mic. Apologies. But we're both a big fan of Genzuki Tojiro. It was a Niji Sanji JP VTuber. Very pretty. He have inspired, like, it just kind of happened that he also has big sleeves, and medieval Irish clothing also has big drapey sleeves like this. But he definitely inspired that, his second outfit. And I feel like the long hair also came a little bit from him. But Dee sent me a lovely written story. A first-person point of view of a night with Genzuki. I want you all to enjoy. Because I certainly enjoyed it. My apologies, sir. It seems we've overbooked. Could you two share a room? You stare at the hotel clerk and then glance at the man beside you. Despite the long journey, Genzuki looks pristine, and despite the situation, unfazed. Without even so much as a glance in your direction, he smiles. It would be no trouble at all, he replies for both of you. He speaks decent English, but I suppose in this situation he speaks perfect English. The rest of the conversation between them is a blur. You can barely register what Gen and the clerk are discussing before you are led to the room. Have a pleasant day, the clerk calls as a farewell and a heavy door closes behind you. The two of you are alone. Alone in a hotel room. You become hyper-aware of the long sigh from Gen. And the words tumble from your mouth. You take the bed. I'll sleep on the floor. You drag your gaze from the floor to look at Gen, and he smiles at you, warm and bright. Thank you, he says. Behind him you see the room is larger than you thought. Large enough to fit 27 beds. You sleep on the floor. And as I told Dee, I did sleep on the floor. I slept at the foot of Genzuki's bed to protect him, as I should. Not the room sharing. This is torture. You just saw your Twitter and saw the R18 tag. I do have one, but no one's posted anything. It's there for anyone who wants to use it. I mean, especially after how people reacted when I debuted it. I think it's important. The naming is still so funny. The name the name is good. Listen. I had the Annals of Ruadh is a reference to the Annals of the Four Masters, the Annals of Inishfallen, the Annals of Ulster, all the original annals that we know a lot of our history from Irish history from. Many written hundreds of years ago, or at least compiled many years ago. Now, if you remove an N from that word, annals, I mean, the joke is too good. But yes, 100 characters limit is difficult. Yes, Dee did in fact write that, and very based for doing so. It was so cute. I love those types of stories. I love those types of things because it's like Genzuki is so perfect that of course you're not going to get to sleep in a bed with him. You're going to sleep on the floor, and you're still going to sleep on the floor even though there's extra beds. That was so good. It's really good. Dee's a very good writer. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of fan fiction written behind that skill. Let me very quickly though. I'll just grab an image of Genzuki. Genzuki. I have loads of images on him, but those are all like fan arts, and I don't want to post any fan art that I don't know who did it. I like being able to reference artists. Webham. Ah, there. Because, oh my god. Guys, Genzuki is suddenly here. Because it's a PNG. Because it's a PNG. It looks like he's actually here. Wait, hang on. Let me make him a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. Hello, Genzuki Tojiro of Niji Sanji. JP, I love you. I love your music. You inspired me to start singing lessons. You made it. I made it. It's I like this would be the epitome of my, or the high point of my VTubing career. I would join Niji Sanji. I would put up with all the bureaucratic red tape just to collab with this man and have him not understand a word I say and attempt to respond to me in decently broken English. Because he traveled. I think it was Canada or something. He did travel abroad when he was learning English. Very cool, but yes, very pretty. You guys can't see because the image doesn't show, but his sleeves are very long like mine. Very open. Let's get rid of him before Niji Sanji comes down with a banhammer and just stabs me. And gets sued. He's so fine. Yes. Husband. No, wife. My wife. Male wife. I've already claimed him. He's mine. You can't claim him. I'm sorry, D. As much as you might want to. This is meant to be a reading stream. An ASMR reading stream. What has become of me? I'm going to go back to my books. Wait. Don't you look at me like that, D. My wife. Not yours. Where were we? Ah, yes. Night had put a stop to the scene of carnage, and the next day Scipio sent Massinissa and Laelius in pursuit of Syphax, while he himself cleared the surrounding country and occupied its strong places, as a preliminary to a move on Carthage. Here fresh alarm had been caused, but the people were more staunch in the hour of trial than is the tendency to regard them. Few voices were raised in favour of peace, and energetic measures were taken for resistance. The city was provisioned for a long siege, and the work of strengthening and enlarging the fortifications was pushed on. At the same time, the Senate decided to send the fleet to attack the Roman ships at Utica and attempt to raise the siege, and as a further step the recall of Hannibal was decided on. We were at Utica when Scipio meets his Niji Sanji JP Oshi. Genzuki Tojiro gave Scipio the advice on how to attack Utica. Very cool. I didn't know he was such a military genius. At the same time, the Senate... Oh, I read this. Yes, the Senate here is talking about the Carthaginian Senate, because they're the ones who are facing this sequence of crisis. Hannibal is still over in Italy at the moment. Scipio, lightening his transport by the dispatch of the booty to his camp near Utica, had already reached and occupied Tunis with little opposition despite the strength of the place. Tunis was only some 15 miles from Carthage, and it could be clearly seen, and as Polybius tells us of Scipio, this he thought would be a most effective means of striking the Carthaginians with terror and dismay. The moral objective again. Hardly had he completed this bound, however, before his sentries sighted the Carthaginian fleet sailing past the place. He realized what their plan was, and also the danger, knowing that his own ships, burdened with siege machines or converted into transports, were unprepared for a navy battle. Unhesitatingly, he made his decision to stave off the threat, and made a forced march back to Utica. There was no time to clear his ships for action, and so he hit on the plan of anchoring the warships close inshore and protecting them by a 4-deep row of transports lashed together as a floating wall. He also laid planks from one to the other to enable the free movement of troops, leaving narrow intervals for small patrol boats to pass in and out under those bridges. He then put on board the transports of 1,000 picked men with a very high proportion of weapons, particularly missiles, an interesting point of foreshadowing the modern doctrine of using increased firepower in defense to replace manpower. These emergency measures were completed before the enemy's attack came, thanks first to the slow sailing of the Carthaginian fleet, and the further delay in offering battle in the open sea. Thus they were forced to sail against the Romans' unexpected type of formation, like ships attacking a wall. Their weight of numbers, too, was partly discounted by the fact of the transports being higher out on the water, so that the Carthaginians had to throw their weapons upwards, and the Romans, conversely, gained additional impetus and better aim through casting their missiles from a superior height. But the device of sending patrol boats and light craft out through the intervals to harass the Carthaginian ships, a device obviously adapted by Scipio from military tactics, failed of its effect and proved an actual handicap to the defense. For when they went out to harass the approaching warships, they were run down by the mere momentum and bulk of the latter, and in the later stages became so intermingled with the Carthaginian ships as to mask the fire of the troops on the transports. Retiring for the night. Have fun reading, Ruadh, and chat. Thank you so much for chatting, Mike. It's very nice to meet you. I'm glad you joined us today and spoke for the first time, lurking in prior streams. So you has told me. Good night. Yeah, have a lovely eep. Have a lovely eep. I hope to see you again. Yeah, there we go. I winked. That wasn't a very good wink, though. I mean. You can always see that if I had to wink on this side, I had to like pull my face over here to gain enough control over the muscles. Beaten off in their direct assaults, the Carthaginians tried a new measure, throwing long beams of iron hooks at the ends of the Roman transports, these beams being secured by chains to their own vessels. By this means the fastenings were broken and a number of transports dragged away, the troops manning them having barely time to leap on the second line of ships. Only one line had been broken, and the opposition had been so severe that the Carthaginians contented themselves with limited success, and sailed back to Carthage. They towed away 6 captured transports, though doubtless more were broken adrift and lost by the Romans. Balked in this quarter, the Carthaginians' hopes were shattered in another, for the pursuing force sent by Scipio after Syphax had fulfilled its objective, and were finally cutting away this prop of Carthaginian power in Africa. The success went still further, as it gained for Scipio the Numidian source of manpower which he had so long schemed for, and which he needed to build up his own force to an adequate strength for his decisive blow. Following up Syphax, Laelius and Massinissa arrived in Massilia, Massinissa's hereditary kingdom from which he had been driven, after a 15-day march, and there expelled the garrisons left by Syphax. The latter had fallen back farther east to his own dominions, Massacelia, modern Algeria, and there, spurred on by his wife, raised a fresh force from the abundance of resources of his kingdom. He proceeded to organize them on the Roman model, imagining, like so many military copyists in history, that imitation of externals gave him the secret of the Roman success. His force was large enough, as large in fact as his original strength, but it was utterly raw and in effect undisciplined. With this he advanced to meet Laelius and Massinissa. At the first encounter between the opposing cavalry, numerical superiority told, but the advantage was lost when the Roman infantry reinforced the intervals of their cavalry, and before long the raw troops broke and fled. The victory was essentially won due to superior training and discipline, and not to any such subtle maneuver such as appears in all Scipio's battles. This is worth note in view of the fact that some historians lose no opportunity in hinting that Scipio's success was due more to his able lieutenants than to himself. Syphax, seeing his force crumbling, sought to shame his men into resistance by riding forward and exposing himself to danger. In this gallant attempt he was unhorsed, made prisoner, and dragged into the presence of Laelius. As Livy remarks, this was, quote, a spectacle calculated to afford peculiar satisfaction to Massinissa. The latter and Massinissa is the son of Syphax, I believe, if I remember correctly. The latter showed fine military spirit as well as judgment after the battle, when he declared that Laelius, much as he would like to visit his regained kingdom, quote, it was not proper in propriety, any more than in adversity, to lose time. He therefore asked permission to push on with the cavalry to Cirta, Syphax's capital, while Laelius followed with the infantry. Having won Laelius's assent, Massinissa advanced, taking Syphax with him. On arrival in front of Cirta, he summoned the principal inhabitants to appear, but they refused until he showed them Syphax in chains, whereupon the faint-hearted threw open the gates. Massinissa, positing guards, galloped off to seize the palace, and was met by son of Sophonisba. This woman... Oh, thank you, Crespian, and welcome in. Thank you so much for the hydrate. This woman, almost as famous as Helen or Cleopatra for her beauty and her disastrous influence, made such a clever appeal to his pride, his pity, and his passion, that she not only won his pledge not to hand her over to the Romans, but, quote, as Numidians are an excessively amorous race, he became the slave of his captive. When she had withdrawn, and he had to face the problem of how to reconcile his duty with his pledge, his passion suggested a loophole: to marry her himself that very day. When Laelius came up, he was so annoyed that at first he was on the point of having her dragged from the marriage bed and sent with the other captives to the Utica camp, but afterwards relented, agreeing to leave the decision to Scipio. The two then set to work on the reduction of the remaining towns in Numidia, which were still garrisoned by the troops of Syphax. This is reading like fan fiction. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, and sometimes history is kind of wacky. When the captives arrived at Scipio's camp, Syphax himself in chains at their head, the troops poured out to see the spectacle. What a contrast with a few years back. Now a captive in chains, then a powerful ruler who held the balance of power, for whose friendship Scipio and Hasdrubal vied on their simultaneous visits, both placing themselves in his power. So highly did they assess the prize at stake. It's also kind of weird because Syphax was also married to that woman. And Syphax was, I believe, Massinissa's father. Ew. Syphax had only married Sophonisba. They'd only married her. When? Only married when Hasdrubal offered. So Massinissa was well alive by then. So don't worry, nothing weird. It's Hyper Ace. Hi, Ruadh. How are you? Hello. Welcome in, Hyper Ace. Thank you so much for the first time chat. Very much appreciated. I actually have a friend called Ace. I actually have a few Aces that I know. So I'll have to call you Hyper Ace so I don't get confused. But thank you so much for joining us today. I'm doing quite well. My voice is starting to get a little bit tired, but I know we're coming to the end of this chapter, so that's okay. We're just doing a little bit of reading about Scipio Africanus, the great Roman general of the 3rd century BC. This thought evidently passed through Scipio's mind, the recollection too of their quondam friendship, and moved him to sympathy. He questioned Syphax as to the motives that he had led to break his pledge of alliance with the Romans and make war on them unprovoked. Excuse me. Syphax, gaining confidence from Scipio's manner, replied that he had been mad to do so, but that taking up arms was the only consummation of his frenzy, and not its beginning, which dated from his marriage to Sophonisba. That fury and pest had fascinated and blinded him to his undoing. But ruined and fallen as he was, he declared that he gained some consolation from seeing her fatal lures transferred to his greatest enemy. These words caused Scipio great anxiety, for he appreciated both her influence and a menace to the Roman plans from Massinisa's hasty wedding. She had detached one passionate Numidian, she might well let astray another. When Laelius and Massinissa arrived shortly after, Scipio showed no signs of his feelings in his public greeting, praising both in the highest terms for their work. But as soon as possible he took Massinissa aside privately. He talked with the delinquent. His talk with the delinquent was a masterpiece of tact and psychological appeal. Quote, and I assume this is from Polybius, "I suppose, Massinissa, that it was because you saw in me some good qualities that you first came to me in Spain for the purpose of forming a friendship with me, and that afterwards in Africa you committed yourself and all your hopes to my protection. But of all those virtues which made me seem worthy in your regard, there is none of which I am so proud as temperance and control of my passions." Then, pointing out the dangers caused by want of self-control, he continued, "I have mentioned with delight, and I remember with pleasure, the instances of fortitude and courage you displayed in my absence. As to the other matters, I would rather that you should reflect on them in private, than that I should cause you to blush by reciting them." Then, with a final call to Massinissa's sense of duty, he dismissed him. Where reproaches might have stiffened Massinissa, such a friendly appeal broke him down, and bursting into tears he retired to his own tent. Here, after a prolonged inward struggle, he sent for a confidential servant, and ordered him to mix some poison in a cup and carry it to Sophonisba, with the message that Massinissa would gladly have fulfilled the first obligation, which as a husband he owed to her, his wife, but as those who had the power had deprived him of exercise of those rights, he now performed his second promise, that she should not come alive into the power of the Romans. When the servant came to Sophonisba, she said, quote, "I accept this nuptial present, not as it an unwelcome one, if my husband can render me no better service. Tell him, however, that I should have died with greater satisfaction had I not married so near on my death." Then calmly, and without a quiver, she took and drained the cup. As soon as Scipio heard the news, fearing that the high-spirited young man, when so distraught, might take some desperate step, he immediately sent for him, and at one time endeavoured to solace him, and at another gently rebuked him, for trying to expiate one rash act with another, and making the affair more tragical than it was necessary. Next day, Scipio sought to erase the grief from Massinissa's mind by a well-calculated appeal to his ambition and pride. Summoning an assembly, he first saluted Massinissa by the title of king, speaking in the highest terms of his achievements, and then presented him with a golden goblet, an ivory scepter, a curule chair, and other symbols of honor. He increased the honor by observing that among the Romans there was nothing more magnificent than a triumph, and that those who received the reward of a triumph were not invested with more splendid ornaments than those of which the Roman people considered Massinissa alone, of all foreigners, worthy. This action, and the encouragement of his dreams of becoming master of all Numidia, had a desired effect, and Massinissa speedily forgot his private sorrows in his public distinction. Laelius, whom Scipio had been careful to praise similarly in reward, was then sent with Syphax and the other captives back to Rome. And that ends chapter 9. Quite the drama at the very end of that, wasn't it? It went from great battles between generals and armies and rueful tactics and innovative techniques in battle to really a deep dive into the psychological aspect of maintaining an alliance and what has to be done sometimes to keep that. poor Massinissa. He got married and then had to kill his own wife. That he did make it a little bit more tragic than was needed. I imagine Scipio probably saw tactical value strategic value in holding the sister of Hasdrubal hostage, but I guess it was probably one of the only ways to avoid. I guess what he was very much worried about was, as I said in the book, her getting her voice in the ear of Massinissa. Marriage. Yeah, it would kind of suck if you married someone and then they immediately told you to like drink some poisoned wine. Hopefully it didn't make the wine taste too bad though. It would suck to like drink from a poisoned cup and be like, "Ugh, this sucks. This is horrible. Why did you have me drink this?" Like if I'm going to be poisoned, at least give it to me in like a Toblerone or like a chocolate cake. I would rather you didn't poison me, by the way. Just if you had to poison me, do it by something sweet and tasty. What if you put enough poison to kill, but... Thank you so much for the follow, Lucid Eye Candy. Wait, hang on, that's a long name. Lucid Eye Candy. I was looking at the screen at my stream first, so it was all in lower text, but Lucid Eye Candy. That makes a lot more sense to read. Thank you so much for the follow. We're actually probably going to finish up kind of soon now, because are you Irish? I am Irish. I am Irish, actually. I'm guessing you could possibly tell by the accent. I'm not too sure how strong my accent comes out when I'm streaming. I do try and keep it somewhat manageable so you guys can understand me. I'm not like Jacksepticeye being super like top of the morning to you or anything like that. How do you pronounce my name? Yeah, there's actually a redeem down below that has a name pronunciation because people struggle with it so much. But it is pronounced, and thank you Haru for redeeming it. It is pronounced Rua Ua Quilta. Rua Ua Quilta. And D has also redeemed it, so I'll say it again. Rua Ua Quilta. Rua Ua Quilta. Don't worry, the spelling is a little confusing in comparison to the pronunciation, but that's how it is. Mr. Ua. And that little guy, that's little Ruru. That's little Ruru. Ua Quilta. You forgot the or, Mr. Haru. Mr. Haru, what? Mrs. Haru. Or Miss Haru. Miss Haru. It was because D called me Mr. Ua that I had the word Mr. in my mind, not... No, it turns into a guy. Oh no. Mr. Ua, stop creating hashtags. Stop creating hashtags, D, for me to get cancelled. What would you do if you guys turned into a guy? Would you... stealing little Rua when you're not looking? No, don't you dare. Don't you dare. He's my little Ruru. He sits here and he gets very cozy. And he's just a happy little guy. You stay away from him, Gobcubus. You stay away from him, Gwynny. Don't you dare. Hello, Claire. Wait, hang on, I have to not be angry. Hello, Claire. Wooa, ooa, wooa, ooa, ooa. Someone would come along and pronounce my name like the priest from, I think it was Age of Empires, was it? Wololo, woo, woo, and then my cloak turns red, and I go to the other team. Or I guess it would turn orange if I'm going from the other team. If I'm going from the Irish team to like... Never mind that. That was a silly joke. Fine. I'm gonna be watching for a goblin sneaking around my camp now. trying to steal away with my little Ruru. I feel like excuse me. I feel like certain people, if they turned into a guy, they would just immediately start drawing Ruadh Ua Kaelte. No. No, no, no. No, 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 no. That is how some people pronounce it when they attempt to pronounce it. Oh wait, is this ASMR? Heartbeat? The ASMR. I actually need to go through all of my redeems and update them, because that's meant to be more so for when I'm doing 3DO ASMR, and it is actually getting late. I need to be up quite early tomorrow, so please don't redeem it, because you already are owed one free heartbeat redeem, Crespian. I will try and do a 3DO ASMR stream soon. I'm thinking actually, me and Diamandus, my friend, another streamer friend of mine, we're thinking of doing a collab together, like a horror game, Phasmophobia. All I know is about that game is that it's like all about hunting ghosts. I don't really play horror games or like scary games or even like jump scare games, so I'm a little bit concerned. But yeah, I think it's gonna be me and Daya, and I don't know. I'll learn on the ropes. Wow, a collab. Yeah, it's scary. It's a very fun game. That's good to hear. Ace. You should for Halloween. Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of the game. We're gonna do like a scary game. Hang on. Do a scary game for Halloween. I should try and do something scary or like some kind of scary themed stream at least once, I think. I don't know what to do though. Maybe I should look up some assets as well, see if there's any like Halloween themed assets. I could be like a little witch, spooky ASMR. You do like a spooky reading stream, ear to ear boo. Yes, boo, boo, boo. Ready to clip Rua's squeal like an anime girl. Probably. Excuse me. My okay, I can definitely feel my throat. There we go. Evil Rua ASMR. How can I be evil though? How could I be evil to you guys? I don't know. I look how smiley I am though. Evil Rua ASMR. Oh, I'll have to like practice my evil laugh. Hang on, you guys got a little bit, but so stop. Stop. How you're messing up my evil monologue. Stop it. Stop. How dare you? How dare you? A week in the no internet room. Get in there. No internet for a week. Now that's evil. I don't know. Maybe I can try something like that. I have no idea what I'd do though. I'll have to like do a little bit of thinking. Nar, that's what you get for interrupting my evil monologue. I'll see though. Maybe people can give me some like ideas. I wouldn't mind getting. I definitely want to try and find some assets to like put on me to make myself like, I don't know, like a zombie or something silly like that. That could be fun. You'll gnaw at my internet cable. No, don't you gnaw at my cables. Don't you gnaw at my wires like a little squirrel. Is that what you're gonna be for Halloween? You're gonna be a little squirrel and gnaw at my cables. A little rat. What can I dress up as? I mean, I already know what I'm doing for Christmas. I'm gonna be a reindeer. Rudolph. I'm gonna be Rudolph. Not the first one I did by accident. Squeak, 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 squeak. I think rats are so cute. And mouses. Not like, okay, yeah, okay. Wild mouses are very cute. Wild rats? No. And wild mouses, despite being... No. No, Harold. No. I know I said that once before, but I don't want to be Rua. I don't want to be that. A field mouse. A field mouse. A field moose. I think they're really cute. I remember one time a mouse got in, and he was running around, and we were trying to capture him, just to put him out, because like you shouldn't allow mouses in your house. Absolutely not. Even though they might rhyme, you don't want mouses in the house. You don't want a mouse in the house. I've actually never seen a hamster die. Oh no, my streamer friend Catero, he's also a hamster. He's going to explode one day on stream suddenly. He's going to get like Ruadolf. Ruadolf. It's really hard to say. Ruadolf. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. No. That's not. No. Zika, listen. For Christmas, I'm thinking of being a reindeer. A reindeer kind of like antler. Like I already have an antler up there, so it's perfect. I could be Rudolph. Not is this my reaper? Yeah, I'm really gunning for that German, that old German market. It's a... Keep using your old emote names. Your hamster got battered around in his ball by your cat and then died of you. Oh, why do hamsters die so strangely and violently? They're so cute. They shouldn't just explode. But for Halloween, I'm not so sure. But hello, Zika. Hello. Oh no, Shika. I remember I went to a whole thing of... It's just the X. I'm so used to like X's at the beginning of words being like Z sounds for some reason. When they're in those type of names. Did you get rejected at art school? No, I know I'd never get in. I never applied. I'm not much of an artist. You remembered. Yeah. You're probably thinking like, oh, he forgot. But I remembered somewhat, as Haru said. They shouldn't. They never die peacefully. They do not. There's always one guy at the Halloween party who dresses up as something in that regard. I am not going to be that VTuber. VTubing already has a pretty strict group on Twitter, and if they heard that I dressed up as that for Twitter for Halloween, I would be hounded to the ends of the earth. I could never stream again. Oh my god. For real, I would be very much cancelled. I should put a redeem that's like 999 million, and it's I'm not even gonna chance that someone would like hack their account and give them all the points, and then it would be over for me. But anyway, I'm going to thank you all for joining. Unfortunately, Shika, this is pretty much the end of the stream, but thank you so much for coming along. We got through a nice chunk of the book, but unfortunately, I always hate when people join. I like when you join. I like when you guys come to my stream. It's nice to see you. Shika. But I hate when people, like, when you join a stream at the very, very end. It's like it's almost worse to join like a few minutes before they end rather than joining and like they're just hitting end stream. You're like, oh, well, you're a little bit disappointed, but then you're like, oh, if you get to talk to them a little, you're like, oh, I missed the whole thing. Like they're telling you. It's painful. Thank you for the stream. I do the same thing. I like, thank you for the 2 minutes of the stream I got to watch. Who is around to raid into, I wonder? Anyone doing ASMR? Whoa, Rakudo is... Why is he, like, shadowed? He's in, like, some demon thing. That's not normal, Rakudo. I think I rated Rakudo, though, a little while ago. You were thinking, oh, nice, ASMR stream. You want to see how they do this. This was a reading stream. I do this by looking at a book and reading it. Very impressive, I know. But I am going to try and get a 3DO ASMR stream. I'm not very good, Chica. I will admit. I struggle a little bit with ASMR. I don't know. I think I overthink things and I get nervous. I find it hard to get into kind of like a flow state, I suppose you could say. Reedy stream, cozy, mostly. Yes, mostly. It got a little weird halfway through. Everyone was trying to poke me in the face and poke my nose particularly. They wanted to pick my nose. It was disgusting. I can't believe they would do this. You can cheese binaural audio easily. I do have that. That's the one advantage of having the 3DO. It's very easy to do binaural. Oh, Haru's about to start stream. By sliding the audio balance left and right in the OBS advanced audio settings. Oh yes, I could actually just shut off one side essentially. I think. I never actually thought of doing that. That's so smart. That could stop any echo being caught. You can see why I struggle with ASMR. I am not very smart. Excuse me. Ooh, you know what? We'll raid into Vixen Blair. Yeah. Birthday-a-thon. Day 1, ASMR Spooky Month. What's she doing? Don't you read a lot? I do. That doesn't mean I'm smart. It means I retain info good. Even then, I don't necessarily retain the info. Sometimes I read a book and then I finish it, and like 2 days later I look at the book and I go, what did I learn from you again? You have a meme about that? Now Vixen is doing actual ASMR rather than just reading. You should... Wait, hang on. Don't I have a Discord? Well, hey, look at that. You can join my Discord and show me it. Is Scipio better than Napoleon yet? Well, I haven't read much about Napoleon, but hi Clever. Clever was here earlier. But how much time do I have? I have a minute. I need to read up about Napoleon, but I'm not smart. I just spent many years studying and training and having meaningful dialogue with masters. Yes, exactly. I learn by osmosis. Like all the philosophy I've read, that's not. I could never have thought of any of that. I just nod and be like, "Yep, that's right." Then I read something completely the opposite opinion, and I go, "Yep, that's right." Oh, god damn it! You guys got a little bit of me clearing my throat. Damn it! I unmuted too soon. Anyway, I don't know. You guys are welcome for that. As disgusting as that probably was, you gotta learn to cross-examine. The opposite, you think, with philosophy. Very cool. No, I have my opinions on philosophy. Anyway, I have 15 seconds. Gered Mila Mahagat and Slong Foil, thank you all so much for showing up. This was a really fun stream. I'll see you guys next time. So, Atsu. Bye bye.